Chapter 72. Su-chan reached out and grabbed a whole roast chicken. She took a bite, only to see Li Yundong stomping his feet beside her. "Are you a pig? Didn't I tell you to put it on a plate?" he said angrily. "Are you a pig? Didn't I tell you to put it on a plate? Look around. There are so many people looking at you. Don't you feel embarrassed?" Su-chan was chewing on the roast chicken's belly. She rolled her eyes and looked around. Sure enough, many people were staring at her in shock. Su-chan blushed, then put the roast chicken back on the table, her face red with embarrassment. Li Yundong almost fainted. He tried to swallow the food in his mouth and patted his chest. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "Come on, you've already taken a bite. How can others eat it?" Su-chan didn't know whether to eat or not. Just when she was at a loss as to what to do, she saw Li Yundong pick up a pair of tongs and place the roast chicken she had just taken a bite of on the plate with a serious look on his face. "It's okay," he said. "I won't despise you," Su-chan said. At first, Su-chan really thought that Li Yundong was helping her. She looked at him with eyes full of gratitude, like a believer looking at a messiah. But after a while, she found that Li Yundong was secretly laughing while eating. She gradually realized that something was wrong, but she couldn't figure out what it was. When Li Yundong quickly finished a chicken leg and threw the bone on the side of the plate, Su-chan came to her senses. She rushed over with her teeth bared and claws. "You're so annoying. You stole my food." Li Yundong laughed heartily as he ate. His back was to Su-chan, and he used his buttocks to block her pouncing body. While protecting his food, he was also gobbling up the food at a faster rate. "Who told you to steal my food before?" The young man and the young woman were talking and laughing as if there was no one else present at the banquet. The people around them were stunned. These people were all upper-class people. Just now, they were wondering where this golden couple came from. Who would have thought that they were a prince and a princess? Who would have thought that they were playing like naughty children? Feng Na covered her eyes with her hands and sighed at Chung Chung. "Don't tell anyone that I know them," she said. Chung Chung looked at them enviously and said, "This is true temperament. It's so much cuter than those people who pretend all the time. The more I think about it, the happier I am to have such a boyfriend." Feng Na pointed at her and said with a smile, "Are you crazy about him? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder." Chung Chung looked at Feng Na strangely and asked, "Nana, if you have a boyfriend like this, even if you can't marry him and have children in the future, when you are no longer beautiful and lonely, won't your heart palpitate and your lips curl into a knowing smile when you recall the happy moments with him, even if these happy moments are superficial, laughable and childish?" Feng Na looked at Chung Chung strangely and asked, "Nana, if you have a boyfriend like this, even if you can't marry him and have children in the future, when you are lonely and beautiful, when you think back to these happy moments with him, even if these happy moments are superficial, ridiculous and childish, won't your heart palpitate and your lips curve into a knowing smile?" Chung Chung turned her head and looked at them enviously. "I don't believe in eternal love in this world," she said. "That's why I think the true meaning of love is that it doesn't matter if it lasts forever or not. I only care about having it once. If you once had the most sincere love, even if it was only for a short time, you will be much happier than others who spend a lifetime with each other." Feng Na was stunned by Chung Cheng's words. Feng Na smiled bitterly. "There are so many mistresses in this world, and they were all raised by your thinking." Chung Chung tossed back her hair and said proudly, "I'm not a gold digger. So I can straighten my back and look down on them." Feng Na shook her head and smiled, but there was a thoughtful look in her eyes. She said quietly, "But if one day you lose this sincere love, what will you do when you remember the heart-wrenching pain and sadness?" Chung Chung smiled and said, "There are no immortals in this world, and there is no love that never ends. It will end sooner or later. So what if it's sooner or later?" Feng Na smiled and said, "I just found out today that you are a philosopher of love." There was a hint of emotion in Chung Cheng's smile. "I only sighed when I saw them." As they spoke, their eyes turned to Li Yundong and Su-chan at the same time. Su-chan fought with Li Yundong for the roast duck for a while, but she found that not only was she unable to grab it, but Li Yundong had also taken advantage of her. She was angry and hungry, so she wanted to turn around and grab another roast chicken, but she was sad to find that there was no roast chicken left on the long table. The one just now was the last one. In fact, the role of the roast chicken on this kind of banquet table was more for decoration. There was only one, and even most of the dishes here were just for decoration. Only a few people who were really hungry would take some food to eat. No one was like Li Yundong and Xueqi, who really ate the food on the table as a proper meal. Xueqi saw that the roast chicken was gone. She curled her lips and felt that she had been bullied by Li Yundong. Suddenly, tears welled up in her eyes. Li Yundong laughed so hard that his intestines were about to break. He quickly coaxed, "Silly girl, in addition to roast chicken, there are many more delicious things here. Take your own plate and eat. You can eat as much as you want. I definitely won't fight with you anymore." Xueqi looked at Li Yundong skeptically. She looked like she was going to protect all the food on the table and not let anyone else eat it. "Really?" she asked. Li Yundong stretched out his little finger. "Pinky promise?" Xueqi was confused, but she also stretched out her little finger like Li Yundong. "What pinky promise?" Li Yundong smiled and hooked his little finger with Xueqi's little finger. "Pinky promise. You can't change it for 100 years. After that, Li Yundong smiled and said, "Okay, go and eat." Seeing that Li Yundong was really not competing with her, Xueqi suddenly smiled. She had forgotten that Li Yundong had bullied her before. She giggled and said, "You're so nice. You let me have so much food." Li Yundong watched Xueqi jump to the table with a cheer. He couldn't help but laugh and shake his head. "Why is she like a 5 or 6-year-old child? I bought this dress for nothing. I thought she would grow up a little." He ate a few more mouthfuls of roast chicken and felt that his stomach was no longer hungry. He put down the plate in his hand and wiped his mouth with a napkin on the corner of the table. As soon as he wiped his mouth, Xueqi came over and looked at him with a smile. "Finished eating?" Li Yundong laughed, not feeling embarrassed at all. "Yes, I have. I must have made a fool of myself. Sorry for making you laugh." There was a trace of admiration in Xueqi's eyes. A man should have a true temperament. A pure heart is the most precious. If you keep a straight face all day long, you're not necessarily a real man. Ever since Li Yundong had confessed his love to Xueqi, he had always felt that Xueqi was a cold person who was frighteningly shrewd and difficult to get along with. However, Xueqi's words made Li Yundong feel a little impressed. He smiled slightly and said, "Are you talking about yourself? Do you know that when you smile, you look 10,000 times better than when you keep a straight face?" Xueqi was stunned. Since she was a child, there had been too many people who had praised her beauty. She was tired of hearing it, but at this time, she felt that Li Yundong's praise was better than all the previous ones, even though it didn't sound like a compliment. Her eyes swept over Li Yundong's face, and her ears turned slightly red. Really? No matter how shrewd Xueqi was, she was still a 19-year-old girl. At this time, her face was blushing, and the way her eyes were moving made Li Yundong suddenly stunned, and his heart thumped. Xueqi brushed the ends of her hair behind her ear and pointed to the balcony next to the banquet hall. "Do you mind going there to talk for a while?" Li Yundong nodded. Of course. The two of them walked to the balcony, away from the bustling and noisy hall. Xueqi leaned back against the railing, her posture a little lazy, and her expression no longer as cold and distant as before. She smiled at Li Yundong and said, "Of course you said just now, do you mean of course you mind, or of course you don't mind?" Li Yundong smiled and said, of course I don't mind. It should be a pleasure for a man to be able to chat with a beautiful woman like you." Xueqi tilted her head slightly and studied his eyes carefully, as if trying to discern whether he was telling the truth or not. "You have a girlfriend like Xueqi by your side," she said. "Are you still eating from the bowl and looking at the pot when you have one?" Li Yundong laughed hoarsely. "That's two different things. Do I have to cut off my tongue and dig out my eyes from now on because I have a girlfriend like Xueqi? Besides, I'm just talking to beautiful women. It's not like anything happened between us." Xueqi smiled and suddenly fell silent. After a while, she didn't know why, but an impulse welled up in her restless heart. Her ears were so red that they seemed to be dripping blood. She boldly asked, "If you had confessed to me last time and I had agreed, would you still be with Xueqi?" Li Yundong looked at Xueqi with a rare serious expression. Can a person step into the same river twice in his life? Xueqi's expression became a little unnatural. At this moment, the girl's shrewdness and disguise were shattered by Li Yundong's words. She wanted to protect herself with a smile, but her heart was sour. This kind of sourness made her use all her strength to squeeze out a smile. In the past, this was something she was very good at, but today, this trick didn't work. Li Yundong looked at Xueqi and smiled. You are a very beautiful girl. I'm sure you can find someone better than me. But I think you should still smile more, really. With that, Li Yundong was about to leave. Xueqi looked at Li Yundong's back and suddenly said, What if I only want to smile at you more? The girl, who was usually calm and shrewd, had lost her composure. Li Yundong turned around and looked at Xueqi deeply. His eyes were full of pity and pity. That's not my smile. Where is my smile? Li Yundong pointed in the direction of the restaurant. Xueqi looked in the direction of Li Yundong's hand, and the expression on her face suddenly became very interesting. She wanted to laugh, but she was a little unwilling to. After holding it in for a while, she suddenly turned her face away. Li Yundong was a little surprised when he saw her smile. He also turned his head and muttered in his heart, What is Xueqi smiling at? As soon as he turned his head, his eyes suddenly widened. He saw Xueqi holding a plate in her hand. The food on the plate was piled up like a mountain, half as high as a person. Every time she took a step, the food on the plate swayed, as if it was about to fall down. The surrounding guests all changed their expressions and moved away, lest they get involved. But Xueqi didn't seem to notice it. She just held the plate with both hands and kept looking around, as if she was looking for a table. But how could there be a proper dining table at this kind of banquet? Most people just took a small plate, took some dessert, and ate it standing up. Xueqi looked for a while and suddenly found a waiter pushing a dining car with all kinds of drinks on the lower level passing by. She was overjoyed and put the plate on the dining car with a bang. Then, she naturally took the dining car from the waiter and said with a smile, Thank you. I was worried that I couldn't find a place to put it. The waiter had never encountered such a thing before. Dumbfounded, he stood rooted to the ground, not knowing what to do. Xueqi, who was on the balcony, watched Li Yundong rush to Xueqi angrily. She smiled at the waiter, pulled the little girl aside, and scolded her in a low voice. Xueqi was so scolded by Li Yundong that she couldn't raise her head, but her eyes were rolling. Her eyes didn't leave the dining car not far away, as if she was afraid that someone would snatch her food. Xueqi was so amused by Xueqi's funny expression that she finally couldn't help laughing. But after laughing for a while, her laughter suddenly stopped, and her smile slowly became lonely. In her sight, Li Yundong said something to Xueqi. Finally, Xueqi smiled at Li Yundong as if she was asking for credit. Her smile was pure and lovely. Chapter 73. When she got home, she took off the luxurious dress she had worn at the banquet and wore a casual long gown. The hem of the gown hung down to her waist near the base of her legs, only slightly covering her buttocks. Her long white legs were crossed, and there was a paint plate on her thigh. The girl was painting an oil painting. A young man and a young girl were chasing a pair of butterflies on the grass. In this painting, the butterflies were in the foreground, and the young man and the young girl were in the background. The painting was nearing the end, and Xueqi was applying the paint to the corners. Painting was one of Xueqi's many specialties and talents, but compared to other skills, Xueqi preferred painting, because only when she was painting could she devote herself to it and forget all the unhappiness around her. But in this world, there was no painting that could never be finished, unless the painter did not want to finish it. When Xueqi finished the painting with the last stroke, she seemed to have returned to the real world from another world. A huge sense of loss and emptiness suddenly attacked her. She looked at the painting in front of her blankly, and couldn't help but think of the unforgettable scene at the banquet. Why did I say that impulsively at that time? Xueqi bit her bright red lips with her snow-white teeth and frowned slightly. Why on earth? Was it because this boy was too outstanding? Or was it because he was too unique? In terms of excellence, Xueqi had seen many men who were 100 times better than Li Yundong. At a young age, they had created a huge foundation. In terms of uniqueness, Xueqi had also seen men who were more maverick than Li Yundong. Not only did they have personality, but they were also extremely talented. But why was she so impulsive? Xueqi suddenly felt upset. If she hadn't been so impulsive, she wouldn't have been rejected. If she hadn't been rejected, she wouldn't have felt so humiliated and uncomfortable. Was he taking revenge on me for rejecting him before? Xueqi suddenly thought of this question. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that it was possible. Men were very prideful. But apart from this reason, were there any other reasons? Xueqi thought hard, But in addition to these questions that made her entangled, there was another question that was pestering her like a devil. What did she like about this boy? Was it the impulse of the hormones in her body? Or was there another reason? Xueqi, who was getting more and more agitated, suddenly stood up and walked into the room from the balcony. As soon as she entered the room, she found a middle-aged man standing in the room and looking at her quietly. "You're back." Xueqi was a little surprised, but she quickly greeted him coldly and calmly. "Finally done?" The middle-aged man nodded. His gaze fell from his daughter to her painting, and a look of admiration appeared on his face. "Not bad." At this time, Xueqi had already taken a paper knife and cut off the canvas with a clatter. Then, she tore it into several pieces. The middle-aged man was stunned. "Why did you tear it? Wasn't it very good? That butterfly is very lifelike." Xueqi said coldly, "No matter how lifelike the butterfly is, it's impossible for it to fly out of this frame." The middle-aged man smiled bitterly and said, "Are you still blaming me? You should know better than me the benefits of a marriage alliance with the He family. You've been smart and sensible since you were young. You should know that you can't hide from such a family. I heard that you made young Master He leave in anger today? Alas, young man, I thought you were very mature. I didn't expect you to do such a childish thing." Xueqi raised her eyes and glanced at the middle-aged man not far away. His eyes were so strange that he looked like a passerby. She stopped talking and just threw the torn canvas in her hand piece by piece from the balcony. Almost at the same time, Li Yundong, who had returned home with Xueqi, closed the door and looked at Xueqi with a speechless expression. Xueqi lowered her head and puffed up her cheeks. From time to time, she would steal a glance at Li Yundong. "Well, I won't do it again." Xueqi couldn't stand Li Yundong's gaze. She grabbed his hand and said coquettishly, "Who told you to starve me for so long?" Li Yundong looked defeated and said, "There are so many of them on a plate. How did you think of that? I really can't stand you. No one is fighting with you." Xueqi immediately said angrily, "If there is, then fight with me." Li Yundong glared at her and said, "You're still talking back." Xueqi immediately lowered her head and muttered, "That's how it is." Li Yundong couldn't help but laugh. "Now you're famous, and you dress like a princess, but it turns out that the princess is the reincarnation of a hungry ghost." Seeing Li Yundong laugh, Xueqi took the opportunity to climb up the ladder. "I don't want to be a princess, I want to be my master's girl." With such a spoiled girl by his side, Li Yundong couldn't lose his temper. He pointed a finger at the tip of Xueqi's nose and said, "I really don't know what to do with you. Don't do this kind of thing in the future, okay? It's so embarrassing." Xueqi wrinkled her nose and made a face. The pot calling the kettle black. The two of them laughed for a while, then Li Yundong went to take a shower, changed into pajamas, and sat in the living room in a daze. The living room and dining room of the new house were connected, and there were two balconies in the room. One balcony was next to the living room, and the other was next to the dining room. So when the windows on both balconies were open, the room was very ventilated. Especially at night, when the night wind blew on both sides of the balcony, it was so comfortable that there was no need to turn on the air conditioner. After taking a shower, Li Yundong sat in the spacious living room, feeling the gentle night breeze. He couldn't help but imitate the way Xueqi used to sit, cross-legged. Then, he thought about what had happened today. From now on, I'm a card slave. Li Yundong couldn't help but smile bitterly when he thought about the money he owed in his bank account. Looks like I'll have to work during the summer. Fortunately, the graduation exams are coming up soon, and then the holidays won't be long. Li Yundong was a very easygoing person. Xueqi's background was so strange, and her behavior was so strange, but he still didn't ask her about it. It showed how easygoing he was. He owed a lot of money, but he wasn't worried at all. He didn't even worry about whether or not he could pay the money back. But it was this kind of personality that was most suitable for cultivation, because the first thing to do was to be able to calm the heart and qi. If it was someone else who kept thinking and restless because they owed a lot of money, then how the hell would they cultivate? Li Yundong thought about it thoughtlessly. He couldn't help but enter the state of Xiao Zhoutian. This was already his daily homework. Li Yundong didn't need Xueqi to remind him. He would automatically do it the moment he got home. The state of Xiao Zhoutian was the easiest way to fall asleep. After a while, Li Yundong fell into a deep sleep, the qi in his body flowing automatically. After an unknown amount of time, Li Yundong suddenly woke up. He was just about to open his eyes when he heard Su Chan's voice in his ear. "Don't open your eyes," she said. "Continue to circulate your qi. Try to observe and feel the qi in your internal organs." Li Yundong was puzzled, but he still maintained absolute trust in Su Chan and immediately did as she said. Li Yundong didn't know how to observe and feel his qi, but when he focused his attention on the qi flowing in his body, he suddenly felt a wonderful realm and state. He seemed to be in a huge container, surrounded by all kinds of rolling qi masses, and he was swimming back and forth in the middle of these qi masses. This kind of feeling was extremely mysterious. Li Yundong even felt that his body was empty, as if his body didn't exist. His whole body seemed to be floating. Li Yundong suddenly opened his eyes and said in surprise, "What's going on?" Su Chan, who was standing to one side, was frightened by his sudden stop of qi. She immediately checked the flow of qi in Li Yundong's body. Fortunately, he had succeeded in refining qi, so there was nothing wrong. If it had been any other ordinary cultivator, this would have immediately caused the disaster of qigong deviation. Su Chan couldn't help but say angrily, "Are you crazy? How can you suddenly talk like this?" Li Yundong rarely saw Su Chan get angry. He said embarrassedly, "Then how should I talk?" Su Chan pointed at Li Yundong's chest and said, "Although the middle dantian is the place where qi is stored, there are many places in the human body where qi is stored. One of the most important places is the lower dantian. Most of the qi in your body starts from here and then flows to other meridians, so you have to let these qi return to the dantian before you can stop and talk. This is called finishing what you started." Li Yundong saw that Su Chan was extremely serious, so he also nodded seriously. Although Li Yundong had always been a little skeptical about the matter of qi cultivation, deep in his heart, he always associated this kind of thing with feudal superstition. Who asked so many qigong masters to cheat in the past? But since Su Chan was teaching him to practice, Li Yundong also practiced, and he slowly experienced a lot of fun from it. Li Yundong said, "I see. I will pay attention in the future. But just now I felt as if my whole body didn't exist. I only saw groups of qi of different colors around me. What's going on? I'm not hallucinating, am I?" As he spoke, Li Yundong's face showed both excitement and some worry. Su Chan explained, "This is the highest realm of qi cultivation. Zhenren Sanfeng once said that practicing martial arts is the same as qi cultivation. They are both the process of transforming essence into qi, qi into spirit, and spirit into nothingness." Li Yundong looked surprised. Zhang Sanfeng said such a thing? What does it mean to transform essence into qi, qi into spirit, and spirit into nothingness? Su Chan said, "Transforming essence into qi is the main task of qi cultivation. It refers to refining the essence qi in your body into essence qi. Qi into spirit refers to refining your essence qi into spirit, and spirit into nothingness refers to transforming your spirit into zhenqi that can be used for magic." Li Yundong was confused. What essence qi, spirit, and zhenqi? Have you played too many online games or read too many novels? Aren't essence qi and spirit the same thing? Su Chan liked to play around, but she didn't have much patience. She was a little crazy in her heart, but she patiently explained. "You used to practice qi cultivation, which is the process of transforming essence into qi. The aura you felt just now was the condition of your 5 viscera and 6 bowels after you reached the highest realm of qi cultivation." Li Yundong was shocked. "What? You saw the conditions of my internal organs?" "But the qi I saw was colorful, and there were all kinds of colors." Su Chan said, "That's right." Zhang Zhongjing put forward the theory of 5 visceral diseases in the synopsis of the Golden Chamber. It was the first time that he pointed out the attribution and color of the 5 viscera of the human body. Among them, the kidney is black, the heart is red, the liver and gallbladder are green, the lungs are white, and the spleen is yellow. Therefore, the colorful masses of qi you see are the heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys in your body. Li Yundong was stunned on the spot. He stared blankly at Su Chan. The little girl in front of him was able to recite the scriptures with ease. She was really familiar with these things. She didn't look like the silly girl she had been at the banquet before. Why does her master teach her these things and not teach her anything about daily life? Li Yundong couldn't help but think, is she a disciple of Buddhism or Taoism? Chapter 74. Li Yundong laughed and put his palms together. "Amitba, this master's words are very kind. Greetings. Suchan giggled and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? How can a monk call himself a monk?" Li Yundong chuckled and asked tentatively, "Aren't you a disciple of Buddhism?" Suchan was stunned and subconsciously thought that although her sect was fated with Buddha, and many of the magic and magical items she learned came from Buddhism, her sect did not belong to Buddhism, nor did it belong to Taoism. Suchan shook her head and said, "Who said I was a disciple of Buddhism?" Li Yundong looked surprised. "Then you are a disciple of Taoism? Amitba, fellow Taoist, this humble Taoist greets you." Suchan laughed and said, "Idiot! I'm not a Taoist either." Li Yundong asked in confusion, "You're not a Buddhist, nor are you a Taoist. Are you my Hun family?" Suchan giggled and blushed. She said, "Bah, you're so shameless. Who wants to be a bastard?" Li Yundong smiled and hugged Suchan. "Then what do you want to be?" Suchan and Li Yundong were getting more and more intimate with each other. This kind of hugging was already very normal. She nestled in Li Yundong's arms, her body as soft as water, as if she had no bones. She said with a smile, "Choner, just be my girl, okay?" Li Yundong was overjoyed. He pointed to his cheek and said, "Come on, kiss me." Boys and girls who were in love were always happy about this kind of thing. Suchan kissed Li Yundong's cheek. Li Yundong pointed to his lips and said, "Come on, you can't favor one and discriminate against the other." Suchan was a little aroused by the huge masculine aura in Li Yundong's body. She said coquettishly, "Master, do as I say. When you're done, I'll give you benefits." Li Yundong looked at Suchan's charming appearance and felt his heart beat faster. He let go of his hand and said with a smile, "What?" Suchan stood up and asked him to sit cross-legged again. She calmed down a little and said, "Close your eyes and check the qi of your internal organs again." Li Yundong thought about the benefits Suchan would give him after this, so he obediently did as she said. However, at the moment, his mind was in turmoil. He kept thinking about the scene of him making out with Suchan, so he couldn't enter the meditative state for a while. When Suchan saw this, she ran her fingers down Li Yundong's spine from top to bottom. The spine of the human body was very similar to the bones of a fish. After all the fish meat was eaten, the bones of the fish would become a long strip of bone. Beside it were fish bones that were scattered on both sides. The empty space between the two bones would appear as a depression in the human body, just like the valley between two mountains. The Earth's core was where the essence of the human body gathered. It was also where the blood energy gathered. This was also where the Ling Tai acupoint was located. Suchan found the Ling Tai acupoint, closed her fingers like a chicken's beak, and gently pecked it. Suchan had never had a Taoist partner before. This knowledge and cultivation techniques were all learned from her master, and when she was reading cultivation classics, she clearly remembered that her master had once told her that the Ling Tai acupoint was a vital acupoint in the human body, just like the Huagai acupoint in the chest. It was an important acupoint like the pass of a fortress. Many outer disciples of cultivation sects would often use a small wooden hammer to gently hit their back in daily life, hitting the Ling Tai acupoint. Li Yundong's mind was full of mosaic images, so naturally, he was extremely impetuous. But when Suchan hit his Ling Tai acupoint, his whole body suddenly trembled. It was as if a basin of cold water had been poured directly over his head, and the boiling heat in his lower abdomen and lower body was immediately suppressed. Li Yundong let out a long breath, releasing all the hot qi in his body, and his body and mind calmed down. With this silence, Li Yundong quickly entered the state of inner vision. At this time, he had already reached the advanced level of qi training. If someone guided him to carry out inner vision and visualization, it would be a matter of course, and there would be no hindrance at all. Suchan, who was beside him, found that Li Yundong's eyebrows had relaxed, his eyes were slightly closed, and his breathing was slow and long. It was obvious that he was looking inside. She said softly and slowly, "You can see the qi of your internal organs. Now, slowly try to guide the qi of your internal organs to the head of your upper dantian." Although Li Yundong had entered the state of meditation, he could hear Suchan's words clearly. When he tried to mobilize the qi of his internal organs, he found that the 5 groups of qi of different colors were like boulders, not moving at all. Li Yundong couldn't help but frown. Suchan immediately sensed that he might encounter difficulties, so she said softly, "Don't deliberately use your mind to mobilize the qi of the 5 internal organs. First, mobilize the yuan-yang qi in the lower dantian of your lower abdomen, and then guide your yuan-yang qi slowly around the qi of the 5 internal organs. The qi of these internal organs will naturally follow your yuan-yang qi. When the 5 qi are aroused, you can mobilize this yuan-yang qi to the upper dantian. Li Yundong did as Xueqi said and mobilized a trace of the purest yuan-yang qi in his lower abdomen. This yuan-yang qi was like a warm gossamer, slowly swimming in his body. When this warm qi went around the 5 groups of qi of different colors in his body, Li Yundong felt that the 5 groups of qi, which had been motionless before, began to tremble slightly. After a while, there were traces of qi of different colors swimming toward Li Yundong's yuan-yang qi. Li Yundong felt that these 5 qi were mixed with his yuan-yang qi. Wherever he mobilized his yuan-yang qi, the qi of the 5 internal organs would swim there. It was like a general directing his soldiers, free and easy. Seeing that Li Yundong's eyebrows were relaxed, Xueqi knew that he had understood the mystery of it. She couldn't help but smile. Although Li Yundong had learned the way of cultivating qi from Xueqi, wasn't Xueqi also verifying what she had learned in the past from Li Yundong? In this process of verification, Xueqi had some new understanding of what she had learned in the past. The way of dual cultivation was not just a sexual technique between a man and a woman. Its meaning was profound and boundless. Xueqi watched as Li Yundong's face turned white, red, black, and green. She knew that this was the result of Li Yundong mobilizing the 5-colored qi in his body to the top of his head. What was the 5 qis collecting in mind? As the name implied, the 5 qis were the heart, liver, spleen, lung, and kidney. It was the qi of the 5 major internal organs of the human body. It was not enough for a cultivator to cultivate their meridians. No matter how strong the qi of a person's meridians was, compared to the qi in the 5 internal organs, it was just external qi. It was like a river compared to the sea. Once a cultivator cultivated his 5 internal organs, not only would he be able to become extremely strong inside, but he would also be able to make the outside of the human body extraordinary. Most importantly, the qi of the human body's meridians could sometimes be used up, and one could not create their own qi. However, the 5 internal organs of the human body were the congenital small universe mentioned in cultivation methods. Not only could they create their own qi, but they could also store a large amount of qi. There were 2 meanings of Chao Yuan. One was that the qi of the 5 internal organs of the human body would be innately attracted by the yuan-yang qi of the human body. This was a passive meaning. The other was that if a cultivator wanted to cultivate the qi of the 5 internal organs, he had to gather the qi of the 5 internal organs at the top of his head. This was an active meaning. What was the qi of the 5 internal organs of the human body facing? It was the yuan-yang. This yuan-yang was not only the yuan-yang qi of the human body, but also the yuan-yang that was the most important part of the human body, the brain, which was also the position of the head of the human body. Xueqi stared at the changing colors on Li Yundong's face with a slightly nervous expression. She knew that if Li Yundong could send this qi back to the 5 internal organs, it would mean that he had completed the task of inner vision, the highest realm of the 2nd heaven of cultivators. Cultivating qi was the most dangerous thing. It was like a child dancing with a hammer. If he made a mistake, he would swing the hammer on his head and smash his head. However, Li Yundong was not only not a child, but also a strong man with divine strength. Naturally, he was very familiar with wielding a hammer. Xueqi saw the color of Li Yundong's face change back and forth 9 times, then gradually return to normal. The 5 qi slowly returned to the body along with the yuan-yang. Now, try to visualize your qi inside your body. Let's see what kind of shape your qi is in. What kind of shape can you imagine it to be? Xueqi was overjoyed. She knew that Li Yundong had successfully completed the inner vision homework, so he could move on to the next step. Li Yundong was very puzzled by her words. Could the qi in the body become like a transformer? Could it become whatever it wanted? But when he tried to think about it, he was shocked to find that his whole body seemed to be floating in a vast sea of clouds. These vast clouds were thick and piled up, blocking all the light around him, like a big steamer. Li Yundong raised his hand to look at his hand, but found that it was a mass of nothingness without hands, feet, head, or body. Li Yundong was shocked and panicked for a moment, sweating profusely. Just as he was panicking, he heard an empty and distant voice coming from the direction of the heavenly court above his head. It was kind, gentle, familiar, and reassuring. Don't be nervous. This is your little universe, and also your spiritual world. Try to visualize it and see what you can think of in this world. Visualization was the basic skill for cultivators to begin to cultivate. It was also a lesson that could test a cultivator's talent and comprehension. Visualization was a test of a cultivator's ability to mobilize their aura and thoughts, as well as their comprehension and creativity. The more complicated a person could visualize, the higher their comprehension and talent were. The simpler a person could visualize, the lower their talent was. Li Yundong gradually calmed down and began to try to visualize. Xueqi looked at Li Yundong nervously, not daring to blink. She knew that besides the Xueqi phase, this was the most important threshold for cultivators. The Xueqi phase divided people into mortals and cultivators, while visualization divided those who wanted to pursue cultivation into geniuses, laymen, and fools. Different classifications determined the level of their future cultivation attainments. In this subject, the elixir of existence in Li Yundong's body could not help him. The only thing that could determine his achievements and attainments was his cultivation talent. Chapter 75. Li Yundong felt as if his soul had been pulled out of the original position of the world and lifted to the top, looking down at the chaotic world that had been wrapped in clouds. In this vast and dark world, Li Yundong found that the cloud under his feet gradually formed and condensed into the shape of a girl. Her facial features were clear and lifelike. It was Xueqi. This change shocked and delighted Li Yundong, as if a strange and mysterious door had been opened to him. He was like a child who had gotten a new toy, constantly visualizing one thing to another, never getting tired of it. While Li Yundong was having fun, Xueqi was waiting anxiously. Li Yundong was in her sea of consciousness, but there was no change on the outside. Xueqi was uneasy, afraid that Li Yundong would not be able to pass this test, or that he would not get a good result in this test. What if Yundong can't visualize anything? Xueqi thought about it anxiously. She couldn't help but feel anxious. After thinking for a while, she comforted herself. No, he's so smart. It's impossible that he can't visualize anything. But she felt that this was simply self-deception. What if he can only visualize something of a very low level? If that was the case, wouldn't it be a waste of all his Jindan's Xueqi? Xueqi couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. If his talent was not high, even with the support of Jindan's Xueqi, he would not be able to reach the top and become one of the top figures in the cultivation world, such as Taoist Master White Crane of Zhengyi School, Supreme Heavenly Master of Scarlet Yang Sect, Master Yuan Kong of Zen Sect, and Mystical Silver Fox, a genius that only appeared once in hundreds of years in her Fox Zen school. The little girl let her imagination run wild. If I can't become a true immortal like them, then I'll settle for the next best thing. Being a free and unfettered itinerant immortal is also a good thing. But what if his talent can't even reach the level of an individual immortal? Then wouldn't I be ashamed of my vow to help Li Yundong become an indomitable master? Xueqi thought to herself in panic. After thinking for a while, a determined look gradually appeared on her face. If he can't even become an individual immortal, then I'll risk being punished and ask Master to open the third eye for Yundong and steal the secret of heaven. While the little girl was thinking about the wind and rain, Li Yundong was having a great time. In an instant, he had visualized hundreds of things, especially when Li Yundong was visualizing distant mountains and rivers. The majestic scene of the mountains and rivers formed by the accumulated clouds and mist really made Li Yundong's blood boil. It was as if he had become the creator of heaven and earth. Under his command, heaven, earth, mountains, rivers, stars, sun and moon, he could have anything he wanted. Wouldn't I become a deity like the founding Gautama Buddha or Hongjun? Li Yunyang was secretly amused. For a moment, he became playful. Thinking of Buddha, he began to visualize the appearance of Buddha. This visualization was incredible. Suddenly, the world in his sea of consciousness rumbled like rolling thunder, and the sound of thunder could be heard. These clouds did not form the appearance of Buddha according to Li Yundong's thoughts. Instead, they kept boiling and floating up, as if they were going to roll over Li Yundong's head. Li Yunyang was startled and immediately stopped visualizing the Buddha. As soon as he stopped, the churning clouds immediately sank. Li Yundong was puzzled. Why can't I visualize Buddha? Is it against the rules? Li Yundong's guess was not wrong at all. There were two major taboos for cultivators. One was to use magic on mortals, which would attract divine punishment. The other was to visualize gods when one was not strong enough. Seeing that Buddha's visualization had failed, Li Yundong did not force himself to visualize Buddha. He turned to visualize the lotus throne under Buddha. If I can't visualize Buddha, I can also visualize the lotus throne. Since ancient times, most of these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have been sitting on the lotus throne, haven't they? Li Yundong thought to himself. As he visualized, the airflow in the sea of clouds slowly condensed together. At first, the airflow seemed very irregular. Li Yundong felt that the airflow in the sea of clouds was constantly trying to escape. This had never happened when he was visualizing it before. He couldn't help but become more and more focused, putting all his mind into the visualization of the lotus throne. As Li Yundong visualized, the thick airflow in the clouds gradually formed the shape of a lotus throne. Slowly, the shape of lotus leaves and lotus petals appeared on the edge. Seeing that his visualization was effective, Li Yundong was overjoyed. He continued to think, it's not good to see the lotus throne empty. I have to have lotus seeds. With this thought, there was a faint ray of light in the dark and rolling clouds, like a dot of starlight on the lotus throne. Li Yundong took a look and found that this dot of light was exactly like a lotus seed. He laughed and said, only one lotus seed won't do. More. Then, small bright spots appeared on the lotus throne one after another. Gradually, the dark world where Li Yundong was illuminated by the light of these lotus seeds. Even the lotus petals around the lotus throne were crystal clear, which was very beautiful, like a lotus lantern in the dark night. Li Yundong looked at the lotus throne in front of him with satisfaction. He reached out to touch it. Although Li Yundong was just a group of nothingness at this time, as soon as he reached out his hand, the lotus petals of the lotus throne immediately rolled and closed, turning into a budding lotus bud. Li Yundong was stunned and had the idea of withdrawing his hand. As soon as this idea arose, the budding lotus bloomed in an instant. The light was dazzling, and the petals were gorgeous. It was so dazzling that it made the spirit space shine so brightly that he couldn't open his eyes. Li Yundong was surprised and happy. He only felt that it was magical and fun. He reached out to touch it again, but the lotus throne changed into the shape of a lotus again. He laughed and repeated it like a naughty child until he did it 9 times in a row. At the end of the 9th time, Li Yundong visualized again, but suddenly the lotus throne exploded with a bang. The petals flew everywhere, like falling flowers. Many crystal lotus seeds flew out of the lotus throne and went into Li Yundong's body like meteors. Li Yundong's body shook violently, and he opened his eyes. He woke up from the visualization. He gasped and his eyes were wide open, as if he couldn't believe what had just happened. Seeing that he had woken up, Xueqi was surprised and happy. She asked carefully, Yundong, what did you visualize? Li Yundong panted for a long time. After gradually calming down, he said with a strange expression, a lot of things. Xueqi was shocked and thought to herself, only by visualizing the simplest things can I easily visualize a lot. Could it be? She couldn't help asking, what are they? Li Yundong briefly described the things he had visualized one by one, including birds and beasts, flowers, birds, fish, insects, mountains, rivers, and everything. Finally, he remembered something and said with a smile, by the way, I also visualized you. When Xueqi had heard what Li Yundong had said before, she had been a little worried. These things were the easiest to visualize, because although the mountains and rivers were majestic and mighty, most of them were dead things. As for the flowers, birds, fish, insects, birds and beasts, they were all living things without spirituality, so they couldn't test a cultivator's talent and comprehension. When Xueqi heard that Li Yundong had visualized herself, she was immediately delighted and asked, you thought of me? How about it? Do I look like you? Humans were the most intelligent beings in all living things. They were born with intelligence and had different appearances, so it was very difficult to visualize them. Especially to visualize them with both form and spirit, it was even more difficult. It was impossible to do it unless one was exceptionally talented and intelligent. Li Yundong smiled proudly and said, of course, it's exactly the same. Xueqi was overjoyed, and the worry that had been hanging in her heart suddenly disappeared. She beamed, hugged Li Yundong, and kissed him hard. Great, great. Li Yundong also took the opportunity to hug the little girl and kiss her. How about it? I'm amazing, right? The little girl nodded her head like a rattledrum and smiled happily. Amazing, even more amazing than I thought. Li Yundong chuckled. He suddenly thought of the strange situation that had occurred when he had visualized Buddha, So he told Xueqi about the strange situation that had occurred when he had been visualizing Buddha. When Xueqi heard this, she suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. She looked at Li Yundong in horror and said in a trembling voice, You actually went to visualize Buddha? Are you crazy? Visualization meant how strong and rich a person's spiritual force and creativity were. Cultivators could visualize anything, but they couldn't visualize gods. This was because cultivators had to visualize in their own bodies and in their own sea of consciousness. In their own sea of consciousness, people had souls, which were their own gods. However, when cultivators visualized gods, it meant that the spiritual force in their bodies was connected with the power of the gods existing in heaven and earth. Not only would it attract the thunder punishment between heaven and earth, but it would also attract the power of the gods into their own bodies, causing a situation where their own gods would be obliterated. Li Yundong's visualization of Buddha immediately caused his own sea of consciousness to surge and boil, and his soul was almost destroyed. However, he was completely unaware of it and had no idea that he had taken a turn at the gate of hell. Xueqi's face was full of horror, which made Li Yundong very confused. After Xueqi explained the reason with a pale face, Li Yundong was skeptical, but he remembered in his heart that he shouldn't let his imagination run wild, otherwise he would be possessed by the devil. Xueqi stared at Li Yundong with wide eyes and stammered, You said that I'm a fool, but I think you're the real fool. Li Yundong's eyes widened. Li Yundong pretended to be angry and said, Nonsense. Be careful, or I'll spank you. Xueqi played with him for a while, and the previous fear slowly dissipated. She said very casually, in short, don't visualize randomly in the future. If there's nothing else to visualize, just visualize the lotus throne. Visualizing the lotus throne was the last task of the second heaven of Qi refining. The lotus throne was the most difficult thing to visualize in the visualization method. Because the lotus throne was not only complicated, but also the most spiritual thing in all things. Although it was born from mud, it was not the slightest bit dirty. Not only were the petals beautiful and dignified, but the lotus seeds it produced were also fresh and sweet, and had the effect of nourishing health and medicine. The birth of lotus seeds also symbolized the cultivation process of cultivators. At the beginning, cultivating with the body of a mortal, a monster, didn't it symbolize growing in mud? Once the cultivation was successful and the flowers bloomed and bore fruit, wouldn't the nidin correspond to the lotus seeds produced in the lotus throne? After Xueqi finished speaking, Li Yundong laughed and said, I've already visualized it for a long time, and I even visualized it 9 times in a row. Later, the lotus throne I visualized exploded, so I woke up. As soon as he said this, Xueqi suddenly widened her eyes and looked at Li Yundong as if she was looking at a monster, speechless for a long time. Li Yundong stretched out his hand and waved it in front of her eyes. Hey, are you scared by me? Xueqi looked at Li Yundong in shock and said, You visualized the lotus throne? And you visualized it 9 times in a row? Don't talk big. Li Yundong said unhappily, Who's talking big? You don't believe me. So, he told her the process of his visualization and his feelings. Chapter 76. The second level was Qi cultivation. After external martial arts practitioners reached the highest level of external martial arts, they would naturally turn from external to internal and begin to cultivate Qi. This was especially true for internal martial arts practitioners. Most of them could reach the middle level of the second level, which was the realm of Qi freely. However, very few of them could practice further, such as inner vision and visualization, let alone forming a lotus throne. It was not only because they didn't have a cultivation partner or a teacher to guide them, but also because they didn't have a cultivation method. Cultivation method, wealth, partner, land, and tools. Cultivation method was the first of the 5 must-have conditions for cultivation, so it was naturally not randomly arranged. Li Yundong had easily reached the highest level of the second heaven, which also meant that he had surpassed almost all the martial artists in the world. He had begun to step into the third heaven, which was beyond mortals, the realm of spirit concentration. Xueqi looked at the boy in front of her in shock, as if it was the first time she had met her lover. The reason why she had wanted to help Li Yundong become a great cultivator was mainly because she was touched by his true feelings for her. She also felt that he was frank and straightforward, a promising talent. But now, she realized that this boy not only had a first-class temperament, but also a first-class talent. To become a great cultivator, there were several prerequisites. The first was to have first-class opportunities, the second was to have first-class temperament, and the third was to have first-class talent. Li Yundong had actually met all three of these conditions. Xueqi looked at Li Yundong enviously and sighed in her heart. This is really a cultivation genius that even God would be amazed and jealous of. Xueqi knew that although the Fox Zen school she came from had an entanglement with Buddhism, and the founder of the Fox Zen school was a disciple of Zen master Baizhang of the Buddhist sect of the Tang dynasty. In fact, most of the descendants of the Fox Zen school practiced Taoist cultivation magic. And the cultivation of Taoism was about inaction and randomness. What was inaction and randomness? It meant that you could do whatever you wanted, and you would never deliberately force yourself to do something. Li Yundong had such a personality, so he had taken a turn at the gates of hell several times, but he had come back unscathed. If it had been anyone else, they would have long been possessed by qi deviation and would not have been left. Xueqi stared blankly at Li Yundong. Could it be that God has arranged for me to meet such a genius? You want me to help him? What else could make a man more proud than having the woman he loved admire and worship him? Li Yundong thought to himself, what else can make a man more proud than having the woman he loves admire and worship him? Li Yundong didn't need Xueqi to urge him anymore. He had already developed a strong interest in qi cultivation. He really liked the feeling of Xueqi staring at him with admiration and awe. After a while, Xueqi returned to her room, still in shock. She tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Li Yundong, on the other hand, was meditating on the living room floor. The next morning, when the sun rose, the first ray of sunlight shone on Li Yundong, and he immediately woke up from his deep meditation. He let out a long sigh and let out a long breath. The breath shot out of the open balcony window like a sharp arrow. It condensed and didn't dissipate until it was more than 10 meters away. At last, it turned into a cloud of white gas. Li Yundong stood up. He felt that his eyes were abnormally bright. Standing on the balcony of the 20th floor, he could clearly see the scenery more than 10 miles away, and he could clearly recognize the handwriting in the shops hundreds of meters away. Not only that, but he also found that his ears were extremely sharp. He could clearly hear the voices of the neighbors around him, including the sounds of breakfast being made. This change made Li Yundong stand on the balcony in a daze. Have I become a clairvoyant and clairvoyant? Li Yundong was still in a daze when he suddenly felt that someone was looking at him. He immediately turned his head in a direction. As he turned his head, he happened to see a girl on the balcony of the next unit looking at him. The two people's eyes happened to meet, and then they quickly separated. The girl on the balcony was wearing loose white casual clothes and doing simple gymnastics. This girl was very beautiful, and her figure was excellent. Especially her pair of crystal-clear eyes, which left a deep impression on Li Yundong. It was the girl he had bumped into at the entrance of the community when he had first come to this community. Li Yundong didn't know that his cultivation had reached a level that ordinary people might not be able to achieve in their lifetime. He glanced at the girl, not because she was looking at him, but because he felt her gaze, so he turned his head to look. Instead, he had foreseen that a girl would look at him, so he turned his head. That was why the two of them turned their heads at the same time, and their eyes met at the same time. Li Yundong thought it was a coincidence, but he didn't know that this was the foresight realm of the third heaven of spirit concentration. Ordinary cultivators and a few great martial artists could cultivate to this realm because they not only had sharp ears and eyes, but also could predict certain things in advance. Shang Yunxiang, the master of Xueqi during the Republic of China, once told his disciples not to look at him when he was sleeping, or he would wake up as soon as he looked at him. Some disciples didn't believe it, so they looked at him while he was sleeping. Shang Yunxiang, who was sleeping soundly, immediately woke up. His disciples were shocked and regarded him as a god. This kind of realm was very mysterious. It couldn't be passed down by word of mouth, and it couldn't be understood by words. Only those who had reached this realm knew the mystery. But in the past thousands of years, there had been no one like Li Yundong who had reached such a realm in such a muddled state. The girl who met Li Yundong's eyes was Hong Ling. She saw Li Yundong at a glance and naturally recognized the boy she had met before. She suddenly found that the place where the boy lived was very close to the place where the long roar had come from last time. Not only that, but Li Yundong's eyes were even sharper and stronger than last time. In just a few days, his cultivation had improved so much? Hong Ling couldn't help but be stunned. She withdrew her gaze, and a frightening thought came to her mind. Could it be that the great master who had roared even longer than Wang Yongming was this young man in front of me? As soon as the thought came to mind, Hong Ling couldn't help but feel her heart beat wildly. She was shocked and horrified. Which cultivation sect's rising star is this? How can he be so amazing? No, I have to pay him a visit some other day. Hong Ling secretly made up her mind. When she looked over again, Li Yundong was no longer standing on the balcony. Li Yundong returned to his room, had breakfast with Su Chan, and then went to school. Just as the two of them left the building, Hong Ling was coming out of the unit and walking toward Li Yundong's house. After pressing the doorbell for a while, Hong Ling found that there was no one home. Her face suddenly showed a resentful and disappointed look, and she turned around and left. Li Yundong and Su Chan arrived at the school. Just as they were about to enter the classroom, they saw Sun Li. The Sichuan little pepper saw Li Yundong, and suddenly froze at the door. Li Yundong waved his hand in front of her face. Hey, don't you recognize me? Sun Li nodded blankly. She stared at Li Yundong without blinking. A little. Li Yundong said. You look different today. It's like you're a different person. Li Yundong smiled at Su Chan, who was next to him. Am I a different person? Su Chan laughed. Nope. No matter how much you change, you're still my boss. Li Yundong chuckled. See. Expert certification. Sun Li shook her head and laughed. I can't stand you too. Li Yundong and Su Chan entered the classroom and sat down in the back row. Before long, the class began to fill up. At that moment, Ding Nan and Zhou Qin entered the classroom together. As soon as the two beautiful girls walked in, the whole classroom was instantly lit up. Zhou Qin's eyes swept across the room, and when she saw Li Yundong and Su Chan, her eyes dimmed a little. Then, she led Ding Nan to the front row and sat down. Li Yundong didn't think much of Zhou Qin's gaze. He only glanced at Zhou Qin and nodded in greeting. Then, he went back to his playful banter with Su Chan. Right now, the young couple wished they could be conjoined and grow up together. They couldn't be apart for even a moment. While Li Yundong and Su Chan were laughing and joking with each other, they suddenly heard the chatter in the classroom die down. Li Yundong raised his head and looked at the door. Then he froze. There was a handsome young man standing at the door. One of his legs was in a cast, and one of his arms was holding a baton. The other was holding a bouquet of flowers. It was Zhao Yujian. What's he doing here? The students in the class were secretly surprised and began to whisper to each other. He's discharged so soon? Isn't he a third-year senior? Why is he in our class? Do you even need to ask? He's here for Zhou Qin, of course. Didn't you see the flowers in his hand? Zhao Yujian glanced around the classroom with the help of his cane. When he saw Zhou Qin, his face lit up with joy. His eyes flashed with passion. He limped over to Zhou Qin and handed her the flowers. Zhou Qin, he said. I bought these at the florist this morning. There are 99 roses in total. They're all the freshest. Zhou Qin sat in her seat. She didn't stand up or take the flowers. Instead, she looked at Zhao Yujian with pity in her eyes. She sighed. Zhao Yujian, she said. You're too stubborn. This isn't good for either of us. Zhao Yujian's smile froze on his face. Ding Nan reached out to snatch the flowers from his hand. Hey, you're so annoying, she yelled. What's wrong with your limp? The moment Zhao Yujian heard the word limp, his cheeks twitched. The smile on his face slowly disappeared, replaced by a sinister hatred and rage. At this time, Li Yundong suddenly felt a sense of foreboding and uneasiness hit him like a tide. He suddenly felt his hair stand on end, stood up and shouted, no! Almost at the same time, Zhao Yujian's hand shook, and the flowers fell to the ground, revealing a black modified Type 54 pistol. When Ding Nan saw the pistol, she was so scared that her mind went blank. Her hand froze in the air. Zhao Yujian held the pistol in his hand and pointed it at Ding Nan's head with a sinister grin on his face. He was about to pull the trigger when he heard footsteps behind him. Zhao Yujian turned his head and raised his gun. Bang! The terrifying gunshot shattered the peaceful life of the university. Li Yundong felt a chill run up his spine. All the hairs on his body stood on end, and he felt a chill run down his spine. Where did he get that gun? 2 days ago, I said in the group chat that as long as the flowers made it into the top 10 of the weekly rankings, I would make it to the 3rd chapter. Now it looks like the kids are still capable of fighting. Not bad, not bad. I won't go back on my word. I'll make it to the 3rd chapter tomorrow. Please look forward to it. Also, for those of you who are used to reading on your cell phone, many of you still don't know how to cast flowers. Of course, you won't be able to find out how to cast flowers on your cell phone. Please log into .com, find my book, and register. Then you can cast flowers. Chapter 77. The question was no longer important. What was important was that Zhao Yujin had already pulled the trigger. The moment the gunshot rang out, the birds in the schoolyard fluttered their wings and flew away, letting out all kinds of frightened cries. The schoolyard was as quiet as a graveyard. Time seemed to have stopped, and the air seemed to have frozen. The teacher, who was holding a textbook in his arms, had a bullet hole in his forehead. His eyes widened, and his body swayed as he fell to the ground. A female university student who had followed him into the classroom had a blank look on her face. She was holding a textbook in her arms, and her face was splattered with steaming blood. It was a horrifying sight. The second-year Chinese language department students looked at the horrible scene in front of the door with different expressions on their faces. They had seen scenes like this in movies many times. At that time, they could happily eat popcorn while commenting on the authenticity of the movie. But when the scene in the movie played out in front of them, their minds went blank. The classroom was dead silent. The only sounds that could be heard were the echoes of the gunshot, the sound of panicked breathing, the sound of pounding heartbeats, and Zhao Yujin's hysterical roars. Why? Why are you doing this to me? Zhao Yujin had lost his mind. The moment he pulled the trigger, or rather, when Ding Nan had coldly rejected him again, when Ding Nan had mercilessly trampled on his dignity again, he had completely broken down. Zhao. Ding Nan, who was known for her sharp tongue, couldn't even speak a single word clearly. She tried hard to say Zhao Yujin's name and persuade him not to hurt her. But Ding Nan knew that she had always been Zhou Qin's shield. The reason why Zhou Qin had always taken her, a girl from the countryside, to go to various places of the upper class so that she could benefit from them was that she could block Zhou Qin's pursuit that she didn't want to see, and she could also block all kinds of attacks against Zhou Qin. Ding Nan knew very well that in this classroom, she was definitely the person that Zhao Yujin wanted to kill the most. But Ding Nan also knew that no matter what she said, there was no way she could persuade Zhao Yujin to turn back, because he had already pulled the trigger. Humans were the strongest living beings in the world, but they were also the weakest living beings in the world, both physically and mentally. There was a demon-like voice roaring loudly in Ding Nan's heart, whining and complaining, "I'm dead. I'm dead. You can't blame me. You can only blame Zhou Qin. She asked me to do this." Ding Nan wanted to roar like this, but her voice was stuck in her throat. She opened her mouth and let out a babbling sound. She could not form words, and her voice sounded more like the pitiful whimpers of a dying person. Zhao Yujin's face was filled with rage and malice. The girls who were familiar with the school hunk stared at him in shock, as if they had never seen him before. In the past, he was so sunny, so handsome like an angel, but now he was so terrifying, so malevolent like a devil from hell, causing one's heart to tremble. The difference between an angel and a devil was only a thought away. Zhao Yujin pressed the gun against Ding Nan's forehead. His eyes bulged out of their sockets. "Aren't you supposed to be a good talker? Tell me. Ding Nan's teeth were chattering, and tears were flowing uncontrollably down her cheeks. Her mouth was still trembling, and she could only manage a few words. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't form a complete sentence. Zhao Yujin felt an extreme sense of pleasure at the sight of the mean, arrogant, and domineering Ding Nan in front of him. Holding the gun in his hand gave him a sense of power that made him swell up from his hysterical state. Zhou Qin, on the other hand, was shaking with shock, but she was still a socialite who had seen the world. She took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Zhao Yujin, we can talk things over. Is there really a need to do this?" As soon as she said this, all the students around her looked at her with admiration and resentment. The students admired Zhou Qin for being brave enough to say something like this, but they also hated her uncompromising tone. Is this woman crazy? Is she trying to provoke Zhao Yujin into a rage? At that moment, many of the students were reminded of Ma Jiajue, Zhao Yujin's predecessor, and the martyrs of the European and American school shootings. They were so scared that they started sobbing. The sobbing made Zhao Yujin even more anxious. He shouted at the students at the top of his lungs, "Shut up! Be quiet!" After he shouted, All the students in the classroom covered their mouths with their hands in horror and trembled like a flock of sheep. At that moment, the girl whose face was splattered with blood finally sat down slowly and leaned against the doorframe. Dean Qian, who had heard the gunshot, rushed to the door. He thought that someone was setting off firecrackers in the classroom. Before he reached the door, he yelled, "What the hell is going on? How can you set off firecrackers in school?" Following closely behind him was his new ally, Mr. Liu. The two of them were like two generals, holding their bellies as they arrived at the classroom door. Mr. Liu didn't even look at the situation in the classroom. He yelled arrogantly, "Hey, who's setting off the firecrackers? What are they doing?" However, when the two of them came to the door, they saw the girl sitting at the door with a dull expression. They were immediately frightened by the blood on her face. The two of them looked down at the same time, and then looked up at the same time. They immediately saw a black hole of a gun pointing at them. Both Dean Qian and Mr. Liu's faces were ashen. Their legs were shaking, and they couldn't walk or talk anymore. Zhao Yujian saw that the teachers had arrived, so he grinned and pointed the gun at them. "Come here." In the spirit of internationalism, Director Qian and Mr. Liu glanced at each other at the same time and said hurriedly, "Hey, he's calling for you." "No, he's asking you to come over. I'm the Dean of Academic Affairs. If I say he's asking you to come over, then he's asking you to come over." "That's right. It's exactly because you're the Dean of Academic Affairs that he's asking you to come over." Zhao Yujian saw that the two of them were arguing, and he raised his gun and fired. Bang! Another gunshot rang out. Fortunately, Zhao Yujian didn't aim properly this time, and the bullet went right between Dean Qian and Mr. Liu's heads. The two of them felt a gust of wind blow past their ears, like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. Dean Qian and Mr. Liu stopped trying to pass the buck to each other. They looked at each other and shouted in unison. Then, at the same time, they ran out of the door, rolling and crawling. They didn't even care about the girl at their feet. Zhao Yujian laughed like a madman when he saw what was happening. But before he could finish laughing, he saw a familiar figure standing at the back of the classroom. Zhao Yujian stopped laughing immediately. His eyes were filled with venom and hatred. As far as he was concerned, everything was because of this boy. It was all because of this boy who humiliated him in front of everyone. He broke one of his legs, and because of this, he couldn't participate in the performance at the exchange. This boy had stolen all of his glory. Zhao Yujian had a feeling that if he had been the one to participate in the performance that day, Xueqi would have been moved by his heroism on stage. She would have accepted him. Zhao Yujian was pitiful, but he was hateful because he would never reflect on himself. If he hadn't kicked Li Yundong, he wouldn't have broken Li Yundong's leg. How could everything that happened after that have happened? Li Yundong stared blankly at the scene unfolding before him. His mind was a mess. He had fought with gangsters before, but fighting and killing were two different things. Fighting with people with knives and sticks and fighting with people with guns were two completely different things. Xueqi, who had been watching from the sidelines, wanted to see what was going on, but she suddenly noticed that Zhao Yujian's attention was focused on Li Yundong. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. She lowered her voice and said to Li Yundong, "Yundong, adjust your qi to the Huiyin. Walk to the Ling Tai. Guard the Huiyin acupoint." Li Yundong's body trembled slightly when he heard Xueqi's voice. The trust and habit he had developed after spending so much time with Xueqi made him subconsciously start to qi from within his body. A majestic stream of Jindan Yuan qi flowed out from the Huiyin acupoint and went up to the Ling Tai acupoint. As soon as the stream of qi reached the Ling Tai acupoint, Li Yundong felt his mind clear. The fear and shock in his body gradually faded, and everything around him seemed to settle down little by little. When cultivators said, "Guard the Ling Tai acupoint," they meant to guard one's mind, and they also meant to open the Ling Tai acupoint with qi. As long as the Ling Tai acupoint was unobstructed, the person would feel refreshed and comfortable. After Li Yundong's qi passed through the Ling Tai acupoint and reached the Huiyin acupoint, he immediately felt his mind become clearer and more agile. His previous confusion, shock, and sluggishness were all gone. His brain began to work like a high-speed motor, calm and secretive. The Huiyin acupoint was located in the middle of the forehead of the brain. Sometimes, when a person was upset and couldn't think straight, they would use their hands to scratch their hair or scratch their scalp. When their fingers passed through the Huiyin acupoint, they would stimulate the acupoint to clear their mind and sharpen their hearing and sight. When the qi in Li Yundong's body gathered to the Bai Hui acupoint in the blink of an eye, it meant that the qi in Li Yundong's body had completed the small circulation and the big circulation. All the qi was highly concentrated and mobilized. At this time, Li Yundong's whole body was covered with Jindan's qi, as if he had endless strength. Li Yundong had just broken through to the Ling Tai acupoint that morning. It was the primary stage of sharp hearing, sharp sight, and clairvoyance. Now that his qi had spread throughout his body, he felt like his courage had multiplied. Even if there were thousands of soldiers in front of him, he would still have the guts to fight. Li Yundong even had a vague thought. Even if Zhao Yujin shot him now, he wouldn't be able to kill me. Chapter 78. God, did I hear that right? John exclaimed in shock. Gunshots? I can't believe I heard gunshots in a country where guns are strictly prohibited. Chris was stunned for a moment. Where did the gunshots come from? John was a martial artist, so he was very good at identifying the direction of the sound. I think it came from the direction of Master's class, he said. Although Li Yundong didn't accept John as a disciple, John still stubbornly called Li Yundong Master. And every time he saw Li Yundong, he would call him Master, not minding Li Yundong's prank last time. After hearing John's words, Chris turned around and rushed out of the classroom, ignoring the fact that she was still in class. Seeing this, John immediately followed. Chris, are you crazy? John shouted. What are you going to do? Do you want to be a hero? Chris's classroom was only one building away from Li Yundong's trapezoidal classroom. As she ran, she shouted, I'm going to see what's going on. Don't forget, I'm a college student with a double major. In addition to studying Chinese language and literature, I'm also a journalism student. The closer I get to the scene, the closer I get to the Pulitzer Prize. This is a famous saying by Master Kappa. Hardadef grumbled and scolded. That's not what Kappa said, you crazy woman. Soon, the two of them arrived at the teaching building where the gunshots came from. At this time, most of the college students had not yet realized what had happened. Chris observed for a moment and whispered, these students haven't run away yet, which means that the murderer hasn't started a massacre. John looked at her nervously. Hey, Chris, this is not a game, and it's not a joke. You don't want us to take you back, do you? Chris's grandmother was a daughter of a famous family. When she was studying in England, she ignored her family's objections and married a penniless sailor in London. After the outbreak of World War II, the family took an oil tanker to Pennsylvania in the United States and finally settled down. After a hard start, the family slowly became a family with considerable power and status in the local area. Chris was the youngest daughter of her parents. She had 4 older brothers and 2 older sisters. She grew up with her grandmother and grandfather. Not only did she inherit the blood of her Chinese grandmother, but she also inherited her grandmother's strong China complex. She had a strong interest and love for the Chinese civilization. At the same time, she also inherited her grandfather's wild and adventurous spirit, which was unique to sailors. Chris looked back at Hardadef, her eyes shining with excitement and nervousness. She bent down slightly and whispered to Hardadef, Don't talk nonsense, Hardadef. If you're not afraid of death, follow me. Or you can try dialing 911. John cried out, 911? This is not the country's police number. Don't bully me because I know nothing about this country. The police number in this country is 110. Chris said, then dial 110. John scolded, This is a domestic phone. Should I call back and ask the domestic police to airdrop me here? God, this will lead to World War III. Chris chuckled. Then shut up. I'm off to film my Pulitzer Prize for journalism. The Philadelphia Daily News will be very interested in this kind of news. With that, Chris turned her head and rushed inside. She had only taken 2 steps when she turned her head back again. Gritting her teeth, she added, Also, I really hope that gunman blows your master's head off. Hardadef was shocked. He grabbed Chris. Hey, you're joking, aren't you? Chris smiled slyly. You found out. I'm joking. Hardadef looked at her helplessly and followed her upstairs. The closer they got to Li Yundong's class, the greater the resistance they encountered. More and more students knew what was going on in the classroom. They screamed and pushed each other down the stairs. Hardadef grabbed Chris's arm and pointed at a girl sitting at the door of a classroom. The girl only had half of her body exposed, but what was creepy was that there was a motionless hand next to her. Chris held her breath. She came to the door of the classroom, leaned out a little, turned on the camera function of her phone, and poked the phone out. What Chris didn't know was that this poke would change the fate of her and Hardadef forever. All the students in the classroom were scared out of their wits. No one dared to fight back. Even the students closest to Zhao Yujin didn't dare to move. Li Yundong was the only one standing in the back row, like a crane among chickens. As soon as Zhao Yujin saw Li Yundong, his eyes turned bloodshot. The murderous look in his eyes intensified, and his grip on the gun tightened. When the murderous look in his eyes reached its peak, Zhao Yujin suddenly raised the gun and fired at Li Yundong. Li Yundong was the first to react. Li Yundong's entire body was covered in murderous aura. The moment Zhao Yujin raised his hand, Li Yundong felt a sharp pain near his forehead. Li Yundong tilted his head to the side. Almost as soon as the gunshot rang out, his head moved a little distance away. The bullet grazed past his ear. When Zhao Yujin saw that his first shot missed Li Yundong, he froze for a moment. Then he fired again. This time, Li Yundong felt a sharp pain in his right chest. The moment the gunshot rang out, he immediately leaned to one side. It was as if two people had pulled the trigger at the same time and the other had leaned to one side. Zhao Yujin's second shot missed. This time, his eyes were filled with doubt and confusion. He wasn't the only one. No one in the classroom believed that there was such a thing as dodging bullets in this world, unless they were filming a movie. Zhao Yujin's hesitation lasted less than 2 seconds. He gritted his teeth, pointed the gun at Li Yundong, and pulled the trigger. At this moment, Li Yundong felt an extremely terrible danger coming at him. The qi in his body was boiling and flowing to the peak that he could reach. The blood vessels all over his body were swelling, and his muscles were highly tense and excited. Every hair on his body was standing on end. He tried his best to extend outward, exploring like a radar, searching for the direction in which the coming danger would come from in the air. Bang! 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 3 consecutive gunshots rang out. Every time Zhao Yujin pulled the trigger, Li Yundong's body would move from one position to the next. His movements were so fast that it was almost like a shadow. The students around Zhao Yujin stared at Li Yundong with wide eyes, as if they didn't know him at all. Some of the Resident Evil 5 fanatics saw the big boss of the movie, Wales, appear. He could actually dodge bullets. Li Yundong dodged 5 shots in a row. This kind of extreme behavior gave the students in the classroom the illusion that Zhao Yujin had only fired the first shot, and the rest of the bullets were blanks. One of the students gathered his courage and bolted out of the classroom, trying to escape. Zhao Yujin missed a few shots in a row. Shocked by Li Yundong's actions, Zhao Yujin froze on the spot. He glanced at the pistol in his hand and subconsciously pulled out the magazine to check if there were any blanks in it. Zhao Yujin was stunned. But when Zhao Yujin noticed that someone was trying to escape, he raised his gun and fired without a second thought. Bang! The gunshot rang out. The student was shot in the back, and he fell to the door. The students in the classroom gasped. Only now did they realize that Zhao Yujin's shots at Li Yundong were not blanks. Zhao Yujin laughed maniacally when he saw that the bullets in his gun were not blanks. He pointed at Li Yundong and pulled the trigger. Bang! Another shot was fired at Li Yundong. Li Yundong sensed danger the moment Zhao Yujin turned his gun around. He dodged to the side like lightning, and the bullet grazed his chest again. Again he missed. The classroom was dead silent. All the students stared at Li Yundong in horror. It was as if the boy in front of them was an alien. Zhao Yujin trembled uncontrollably as he stared at Li Yundong. Li Yundong, a man who had never shown himself to the world before, was now glaring at Zhao Yujin like a hunter staring at his prey. Sweat poured down Zhao Yujin's back. He felt as if he was looking at a demon smiling at him. Back when he used his gun to kill one life after another without breaking a sweat, the thrill of toying with other people's lives in the palm of his hand made him feel like he was an omnipotent god. But now, Zhao Yujin was horrified to find that the person standing in front of him was a god that no mortal could ever hope to compare with, or even fathom. John and Chris, who were standing at the door, stared at the screen with their mouths agape. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. John stuttered, "God! Jesus Christ! How is this possible? Is he trying to dodge bullets? Is this some kind of Matrix movie?" Chris was just as shocked by Li Yundong's godlike performance. Her scalp went numb, but she reacted faster than John. She pointed at the student who had been shot and said, "Pull him out. See if he can still be saved." John gritted his teeth and crawled to the door of the classroom. He carefully poked his head out and saw that Zhao Yujin was standing in the classroom with a blank look on his face. He didn't seem to notice them at all. Only then did John muster the courage to reach out and slowly drag the student and teacher out of the classroom. John was sweating profusely. He saw the teacher who had been shot in the head, but he didn't bother to check his pulse. Instead, he shook his head and said, "This one can't be saved." As he spoke, he checked the pulse of another student and was immediately delighted. "This one still has a pulse." Chapter 79. John tore the jacket Crazy had given him into strips, then wrapped the student's wound with a simple bandage. Even though John was an experienced fighter who had participated in all kinds of competitions, he was still sweating nervously. By the time the bandage was done, John's hands were covered in blood. He subconsciously wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, and his face was covered in blood as well. "What happened? What happened?" John whispered to Crazy after he had finished treating the student. Crazy shook her head nervously. She turned to look at John and glared at him. "Call the police, you idiot," John said. He pulled his phone out of his pocket. Just as he was about to make a call, he heard Crazy say, "John, stand up. Watch out. Something's wrong." John looked at Crazy's phone screen nervously. He saw that Zhao Yujin was still pointing his gun at Li Yundong, but he didn't have the guts to fire again. The modified Type 54 handgun had increased its magazine capacity from 8 to 10. Zhao Yujin had fired 2 bullets at Li Yundong, and then he had fired 5 more at Li Yundong. Then he had fired another bullet at a student who was trying to escape. There were still 2 bullets left in the magazine. Li Yundong's movements were strange and inhuman, so Zhao Yujin didn't have the guts to fire at Li Yundong again. He might still have a magazine, but Li Yundong was too agile to give him time to reload. Zhao Yujin leaned on his crutch with one hand and pointed his gun at Ding Nan's head with the other. The violence and arrogance on his face had been replaced by nervousness and fear. A gun-toting strongman suddenly seemed to have become a weakling. Zhao Yujin's eyes widened. Zhao Yujin watched Li Yundong's movements nervously. "Move again and I'll kill her," he yelled. Li Yundong was usually careless and easygoing, but when faced with a situation like this, he didn't hesitate at all. "Are you threatening me?" Li Yundong sneered. Li Yundong stepped out from the back of the car. Zhao Yujin screamed hysterically. He pressed the muzzle of the gun against Ding Nan's head so hard that it left a bloody mark. "Move again and I'll kill her." Li Yundong immediately stopped moving. He didn't want to see anyone he knew lying in a pool of blood. "Okay, I won't move." "But Zhao Yujin, have you ever thought about your mother when you did this? If you give up on yourself like this, what about your mother?" Zhao Yujin's face contorted into a grimace. He let out a few guffaws, then sobbed and cried, "Do I still have a way to turn back? You can dodge bullets, but can you bring these dead people back to life?" Zhao Yujin was like a wounded beast, crying and screaming at the top of his lungs. He glanced at Li Yundong, then at Zhou Qin. Why are you all forcing me to do this? Why? Zhou Qin suddenly said, "Zhao Yujin, no one is forcing you. You are the one forcing yourself." "Shut up! Shut up!" Zhao Yujin screamed like a madman. He pointed the gun at Zhou Qin again. Zhou Qin stared at Zhao Yujin, as if she didn't see the gun pointed at her head. Only Ding Nan, who was beside her, felt a slight tremble. "Stand up," Zhao Yujin said, pointing the gun at Zhou Qin. His voice was filled with despair and hatred. He couldn't do anything to Li Yundong, so he vented all his anger on the 2 girls in front of him. Zhou Qin slowly rose to her feet under Zhao Yujin's threat. "Get out of here," Zhao Yujin shouted at Li Yundong. "Don't move. I'll kill them if you do." Li Yundong raised his hands and stared at Zhao Yujin. He slowly walked toward the door. Su Chan followed closely behind him. "Yundong," she whispered. "Can you distract him?" "I'll do it." Li Yundong was startled. How could he let Su Chan take such a risk? "Don't mess around," Li Yundong scolded. He glared at Su Chan. Zhao Yujin saw the 2 of them whispering to each other. He tensed up and shouted, "What are you talking about? Don't do anything stupid. I'll kill them." Li Yundong shouted back. We're leaving now. Don't you dare do anything stupid. Zhao Yujin shouted back. Stand down the stairs. Stand where I can see you. Otherwise, I'll kill them with one shot. Li Yundong did as he was told and led Suchan out of the classroom. As soon as he stepped out of the classroom, Li Yundong saw Chris and a bloodied Hardadef surrounding him. They stared at him with a mixture of nervousness and surprise. What are you two doing here? Li Yundong asked in surprise. Hardadef stared at Li Yundong with a look of ecstasy. Chris, on the other hand, looked Li Yundong up and down with wide eyes. Then, she grabbed his arm. How did you do that? Li Yundong realized that the blonde girl in front of him was bare-chested. She was wearing nothing but her underwear. Instead of answering, Li Yundong pointed at Chris. What are you doing? Chris took a look at herself and realized what was going on. She pointed at the wounded student on the floor. She was about to ask Li Yundong what had happened when she heard a shout from inside the classroom. Li Yundong! Stand down the stairs where I can see you. Or I'll shoot you. Li Yundong immediately turned to Chris. Did you hear that? After that, he hurried downstairs with Suchan. Chris and Hardadef also looked at each other. Chris said to Hardadef, wait here. Chris grabbed her phone and ran down the stairs. Hey! I don't want to stay here. Hardadef yelled. I want to stay with Sherfu. It's too dangerous here. He took off his jacket and covered the wounded student with it. Hang in there. Help will be here soon. Hardadef turned around and ran down the stairs. He didn't care if the student could hear him or not. Li Yundong came to the back of the school building and waved at Zhao Yujin, who was standing by the window. Zhao Yujin, don't do anything stupid. Zhao Yujin sighed in relief when he saw that Li Yundong was already downstairs. He pointed the gun at Zhou Qin and Ding Nan. Stand up. Zhao Yujin used the gun to force Ding Nan and Zhou Qin out of the classroom. Upstairs, he said coldly. Zhou Qin and Ding Nan looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with fear and confusion. Zhao Yujin held his cane in one hand and the gun in the other. He forced Zhou Qin and Ding Nan to the top floor. Up to the roof. Zhou Qin frowned. The roof door is closed. That's impossible. Zhao Yujin said angrily. The roof door is never closed. Zhou Qin said calmly. The roof door was closed after Li Yundong climbed up to the roof last time. She pointed at the lock on the door. Without another word, Zhao Yujin raised his gun and shot the door lock off with a bang. Zhou Qin and Ding Nan didn't expect Zhao Yujin to fire a gun. They shivered in fear. You can open the door now. Zhao Yujin said angrily. Ding Nan didn't dare say another word. She opened the door immediately and went up to the roof of the school building. Zhou Qin looked at Zhao Yujin coldly. This modified Type 54 pistol can only hold 10 bullets at most. That means you only have 1 bullet left. Zhao Yujin glared at her. His eyes were filled with hostility. He pointed the gun at Zhou Qin. Let's go. What are you trying to say? There are 2 of us. You can only kill one of us with 1 shot. You'd better think carefully before you fire the first shot. Zhou Qin said as they walked. Who do you think I'll shoot first? Zhao Yujin sneered. I don't know, Zhou Qin said coolly. But I'm telling you, if I die, not only will you be finished, your mother, your father, and all of your family will be finished. From then on, they will live a life worse than death. They will regret being born into this world, and they will regret giving birth to you. Zhao Yujin's whole body trembled. He looked at Zhou Qin with eyes full of fear. His teeth chattered. You're so cruel. Zhou Qin looked at him coldly. It's not that I'm cruel, she said. It's just that the power behind me is too strong. Power is like a beast. The stronger it is, the more it wants to eat people. The more harm anyone inflicts on it, the more it will retaliate. This is not something I can control. Although Ding Nan went up to the roof first, she heard everything Zhou Qin said clearly. She knew what Zhou Qin was trying to say. You only have 1 bullet. Kill Ding Nan, but don't kill me. Otherwise, my family will avenge me. Ding Nan's heart was filled with fear and regret. She was shocked by Zhou Qin's cold-bloodedness, and she hated Zhou Qin's cold-bloodedness. She was afraid of death, and she regretted her own vanity. If he hadn't followed Zhou Qin out of greed and vanity, he wouldn't have become Zhou Qin's scapegoat now. Zhao Yujin looked at Zhou Qin in despair. He suddenly realized that he didn't know this girl in front of him at all. In order to pursue Zhou Qin, Zhao Yujin had spent a lot of time finding out what she liked and liked. He thought he knew Zhou Qin very well and that he could bring her happiness. That was why he refused to let go of her. But now, Zhao Yujin realized that this girl was too scary. He didn't know her at all. Until just now, Zhao Yujin still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. Maybe Zhou Qin would surrender to him in the face of death. Maybe she would say something, or even smile at him. That would be good. But nouch. Ha 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 ha. Zhao Yujin laughed in despair. His laughter made Zhou Qin's hair stand on end. Ding Nan was so scared that she burst into tears. She couldn't even stand straight. Her whole body was shaking like a sieve. Stand by the side of the building. Zhao Yujin pointed the gun at the two girls. Ding Nan's whole body was trembling. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She couldn't even walk. Zhou Qin, on the other hand, was able to hold on. She walked over to Ding Nan and whispered, "Let's go. Don't give up." Ding Nan's eyes lit up when she heard Zhou Qin's words. She felt like she had grasped a life-saving straw. Was she trying to seduce Zhao Yujin? The two girls stood on the edge of the rooftop, trembling with fear. At this time, the ground floor was already crowded with people. Many of the girls covered their mouths, not daring to breathe loudly, while the boys pointed at the rooftop in horror. While taking pictures of the scene upstairs, Chris shouted at Li Yundong anxiously, "Hurry up and think of something." Li Yundong took a deep breath and said calmly, "Be quiet. I'll climb up and take a look." While he was talking, Zhao Yujin pointed the gun at Zhou Qin and Ding Nan's heads. "I only have one bullet left," Zhao Yujin said with a sad smile. "This was originally for me. Now the two of you can choose one. Who will jump down? I won't kill the one who stays." Chapter 80. Go to Watch Network. While Zhao Yujin was forcing the two girls to make a choice, Li Yundong took a deep breath and sprinted toward the wall of the school building. "Go see. 7K. Oath M." Since the two girls were standing at the back of the building, Zhao Yujin was a couple of meters away from the edge of the rooftop, so he couldn't see Li Yundong's movements. Every time Li Yundong stomped on the ground with his thighs, the students at the bottom of the teaching building had the illusion that the ground seemed to be shaking under the boys' footsteps. Li Yundong could feel a surge of energy coursing through his body every time he stomped on the ground. This energy allowed him to sprint in the shortest amount of time possible. Using the momentum of his sprint, he sprinted 3 meters vertically along the wall. Then, he stomped on the ground with one foot and leaped into the air, grabbing the windowsill on the second floor with both hands. The students and teachers at the bottom of the school building broke out in a cold sweat. The school leaders who had just arrived were even more panicked. They knew that if something like this happened in the school, none of them would be able to escape. What scared them the most was that if either of the two girls jumped down from the rooftop, they would all be dead. "Who's that boy climbing up?" one of the teachers asked as he watched Li Yundong climb up the building. "What's he doing?" "I think he's trying to save someone," two teachers whispered to each other. "What nonsense! Tell him to come down," Principal Ka shouted, stomping his feet. "Does he think he's the savior of the world?" "Shh! Keep your voice down, Principal Ku. If the murderer hears you, we'll be in big trouble. The student has already climbed to the 3rd floor. It's too late to tell him to come down." "Yeah, pray God." While they were talking, Li Yundong climbed up another floor. Using both his hands and feet, he was as agile as a cheetah. The students and teachers at the bottom of the school building were stunned speechless. Every time Li Yundong climbed up a floor, some of the girls let out a low cry of surprise. Chris and John stared at Li Yundong with their eyes wide open. "God," Chris whispered. "Does he think he's Superman?" John looked at Li Yundong nervously. "No, he obviously thinks of himself as Spider-Man." Watch net. 7K. Oath M. Net. Super_speed. More. New. Just as Li Yundong was approaching the top of the building, the situation on the rooftop suddenly changed. Zhao Yujin's words caused the two girls, who were already at odds with each other, to quickly pull away from each other. They looked at each other warily. As the director, Zhao Yujin couldn't help but laugh hysterically at the sight of Li Yundong. Now that Li Yundong was no longer threatening or oppressing him, The thrill of having someone else's life in his hands once again filled him. Zhao Yujin yelled like a madman. Don't you two have a good relationship? Hurry up and choose. Who will live and who will die? Zhou Qin frowned secretly and bit her lip. She reached out to Ding Nan, who immediately shouted nervously, "Don't come over." "Ding Nan," Zhou Qin said softly. "You're a smart person. You should know that if I die, you won't live either. That will be a situation where both of us die together. If I survive, I'll take good care of your family for you. They'll live a life that they could never have imagined before." Ding Nan was trembling all over. She looked at Zhou Qin with tears streaming down her face. She was a very beautiful girl herself. She had a small oval face, a slender figure, and snow-white skin. Her facial features were delicate and soft. Even the crazy Zhao Yujin couldn't help but feel sad when she cried. But Zhou Qin's expression didn't change. She just stared at Ding Nan. Ding Nan's mind was in a mess. She didn't know what to do. No matter how strong and eloquent she was, she couldn't change the fact that she was less than 20 years old. She wanted to gnash her teeth and die with Zhou Qin, but Zhou Qin's words were cold and pierced her like a sharp sword. She didn't want to die, so she didn't know what other choice she had other than to cry. Zhao Yujin was getting impatient. "How long are you guys going to wait?" he hissed. Zhou Qin's heart tightened. She couldn't help but take a step forward. Ding Nan immediately screamed, "Don't come near me." As she spoke, she took a step back and stepped on the edge of the rooftop. She twisted her ankle and tilted her body. At that moment, Ding Nan found that the world in front of her had suddenly turned upside down. Zhou Qin's figure was getting farther and farther away from her. The moment the girl fell, there was a look of pity and sorrow in her eyes. "Go to see the net." But it was too late. Ding Nan's heart seemed to have stopped beating. She suddenly felt a terrible sense of weightlessness wash over her like a tide, instantly drowning her. "I'm going to die. Am I going to die?" Ding Nan's pupils suddenly shrank. A thought flashed through her mind in despair. The colorful world instantly turned gray. But the moment she fell, Ding Nan suddenly felt a strong arm hug her. When Li Yundong climbed to the 4th floor, he suddenly saw a black shadow fall in front of him. Without thinking, he immediately jumped out and caught the shadow in his arms. He somersaulted in the air, adjusted his balance, and landed on the ground with a thud like a meteor. The people downstairs immediately let out a cry of surprise. Chris and John's eyes widened at the same time. "Jesus Christ, is he okay?" Ding Nan had thought that she was going to die, but she hadn't expected that someone would catch her in the middle of her fall. And this person had jumped down from the 4th floor with her in his arms, and yet he was fine. Ding Nan's eyes were wide open as she stared at the boy in front of her. The boy had thick eyebrows, big eyes, a tall nose, and tightly pursed lips. His eyebrows were like two sharp swords flying into his temples. "Isn't this the Li Yundong that I used to humiliate? Why did he save me?" Ding Nan's mind was in a mess, and she completely forgot the most important question. Why did he save me? Most of the people here had also largely ignored this point. They were all shocked and impressed by Li Yundong's courage and decisiveness when he flew up to save Zhou Qin. The gray world in Ding Nan's eyes gradually became colorful again. She stared at Li Yundong in a daze. Suddenly, a wave of shame filled her heart. She grabbed Li Yundong's arm and burst into tears. At the moment when Li Yundong was saving the girl, his mind was clear and his mind was firm. But after he saved the girl, he was a little bewildered by the crying girl. He was about to say something to calm her down, but he suddenly heard a cry of surprise from the people around him. Li Yundong looked up and saw Zhao Yujin standing at the edge of the rooftop with a gun pointed at Zhou Qin. Zhao Yujin looked at the girl in front of him, who was still able to remain calm under the muzzle of a gun. Looking at this beautiful girl with a graceful figure, he thought to himself, "This is probably the kind of beauty that people like Bao see in ancient times. Unfortunately, I'm not even King Yu of the Zhou dynasty, who lost his country because of the fire beacon. I can't even see a trace of her smile. In her heart, I must be a clown or something, right?" Zhao Yujin laughed bitterly. "You really are a cruel person. How could you force your best friend to die?" Zhou Qin tilted her head slightly, as if there was still a trace of kindness left in her heart. She couldn't face the bloody truth. "I don't have any friends," she said with a hint of sadness in her eyes. "She's not my friend." Zhao Yujin was choked by Zhou Qin's words. He took a few deep breaths and was about to say something when he suddenly heard someone yell from the direction of the rooftop. Zhao Yujin, calm down. Zhao Yujin, calm down. Zhao Yujin turned his head and saw the school leaders, Principal Ku, and the others looking at him nervously. Only then did the school leaders realize in horror that the girl in front of Zhao Yujin was Zhou Qin. They more or less knew a little about this girl's background. If this girl were to die in school, what kind of terrifying storm would await them? At the thought of this, the school leaders struggled to take a step forward. Calm down, Zhao Yujin, they said in a pleading voice. Calm down. We can talk this through. Zhao Yujin pointed his gun at them and shouted in a hoarse voice, Stop! Don't come any closer. Zhou Qin saw that Zhao Yujin's gun had suddenly moved away from her. She was so close to him. Suddenly, a bold idea came to her mind. Zhou Qin lunged at Zhao Yujin and grabbed his hand that was holding the gun. The two of them got tangled up in a fight. Zhao Yujin tensed up when he saw them approaching. His finger pulled the trigger, and a gunshot rang out. One of the teachers screamed and fell to the ground. The teachers around him shivered and crawled down to the ground, not daring to move a muscle. Zhao Yujin looked at Zhao Yujin, who was standing at the entrance of the rooftop. Zhou Qin didn't know where the courage and strength came from, but she sneered at Zhao Yujin. You're out of bullets. Zhao Yujin stared at Zhou Qin with a complicated look in his eyes. He didn't know if he admired the girl's courage to fight back in a moment of life and death, or if he was shocked by her calmness. Zhao Yujin suddenly grinned and said, Then let's die together. Then he grabbed Zhou Qin and jumped out of the rooftop. The teachers on the rooftop watched Zhou Qin's figure disappear little by little, and they suddenly became disheartened. At this moment, they seemed to see their dreams and pursuits in life all shattered into pieces. Their houses, cars, children, and wives were all finished. The moment Li Yundong saw two figures fall from the rooftop, his pupils suddenly shrank. He broke free from Ding Nan's embrace, quickly rushed to one of the figures, and held one of them in his arms with both hands. The sun was high up in the sky, and the blinding sunlight made it impossible for Li Yundong to tell who the two figures were. He could only catch one of them on reflex. When Li Yundong had fallen from the sky with Ding Nan in his arms, he had adjusted his center of gravity. His strong thigh bones and muscles had borne the impact of the weight of two people and the acceleration of gravity. But how thick were his thighs? How thick were his arms? This huge impact suddenly pressed down on Li Yundong's body. Even though his body had been transformed by Jin Dan, he couldn't bear it. His arms were instantly dislocated with a crack, but fortunately, his body fell to the ground, and he took advantage of the momentum to reduce some of the force. When Li Yundong fell to the ground, there was a muffled thud next to him. It was the sound of flesh hitting the hard concrete floor. Blood splattered everywhere, and the crowd gasped in shock. Only then did the crowd realize that the person in front of Li Yundong was a girl with long black hair, and the one on the ground was Zhao Yujin, who was twitching and bleeding. My dear children. Your flowers are so lame. You fell off the weekly ranking list again. This won't do. From now on, my power will be determined according to the order of the weekly ranking list. I will use it once in the 10th week, twice in the 9th, and 3 times in the 8th. You work hard and I work hard. Fair enough. Happy reading. OM/. Chapter 81. Go to sea. Zhao Yujin lay on the ground, his eyes fixed on Zhou Qin, who was still in a state of shock. His eyes were filled with resentment, but the look in his eyes slowly faded away. The world around him darkened bit by bit, and the cries of surprise and noise around him turned into a buzzing sound, indistinct and indistinguishable. Go to sea. Net. Super_speed. More. New. Am I still alive? Zhou Qin stared at Li Yundong in front of her. She opened her mouth to speak, but found that her throat was hoarse. She couldn't say a word. Li Yundong's forehead was covered with beads of sweat. His teeth were clenched tightly, and his expression was ferocious and terrifying. It was as if he was enduring a great deal of pain. God, his arm is dislocated. Chris saw that Li Yundong's shoulder and elbow joints were rapidly swelling up. She immediately pushed through the crowd and squeezed in front of Li Yundong. Chris crouched down and was just about to check on Li Yundong's injury when a girl suddenly pushed her hand away. Get out of my way, Chris said in a sharp voice. Chris froze for a moment, then realized that the girl was Xueqi, who had been following Li Yundong around the whole time. "He's injured," Xueqi said. "Let me take a look. I know a little about medicine." Xueqi sneered and looked at the Caucasian girl who was only wearing underwear. Her pretty face showed obvious contempt and disdain. A barbarian knows medicine? Chris was stunned. Her face suddenly turned purple. She helped out of kindness, and this was what she got in return? Chris's face turned red. "I've received professional training," she yelled. "Have you?" Xueqi didn't bother to argue with her. Instead, a terrifying green light flashed in her eyes, like a wild beast baring its fangs. Chris was so frightened by the murderous look in Xueqi's eyes that she took a step back. When she came back to her senses, she was about to rush forward angrily when she saw Xueqi poke Li Yundong's chest with her finger. "I'm going to help you reattach your dislocated joint," Li Yundong said in a low voice. Li Yundong's face was covered in sweat. He nodded to Xueqi and forced a smile. Then, she grabbed his forearm with one hand and his forearm with the other. Suddenly, with a twist and a push, Li Yundong's dislocated forearm was pushed into the joint with a loud crack. Then, she pushed his forearm into the joint with the shoulder socket. Li Yundong's forearm was pushed into the joint with the shoulder socket. Then, she pushed his arm into the joint with the shoulder socket. For consecutive sounds of joints cracking could be heard. The surrounding students felt their hairs stand on end as they broke out in a cold sweat and grimaced in pain. The joints of their arms were also aching. Watch net. Net. Super_speed. More. Knew, however, Li Yundong didn't say a word. His forehead was covered with beads of sweat, and his cheeks were clenched so tightly that his muscles were like rolling steel bars. For a moment, the students around him couldn't imagine how Li Yundong had managed to catch a person from the 4th floor, or how he had managed to catch a girl who had jumped from the 5th floor. But when they saw Li Yundong's dislocated arms and put them back in place, they couldn't help but admire him. Li Yundong didn't make a sound at all. His face was full of admiration. "That's a real man." Some of the girls covered their mouths and stared at Li Yundong with complicated expressions. Chris watched in shock as Xueqi skillfully reattached Li Yundong's dislocated arms. God, how many times has she done something like this? She couldn't help but whisper. Hardadef shivered. As a martial artist, he knew very well that a person who was familiar with reattaching joints would also be very familiar with disassembling joints. "This girl who's as cute as a Barbie is a terrible killer," Hardadef whispered to Chris. At this point, Chris had already forgotten about the filming, but she was still holding the phone in her hand and was still filming. After taking a few deep breaths, he found that his arms were fine except for some soreness. He stood up and stretched his arms. When he turned his head, he suddenly saw Xueqi and Ding Nan, who were lying on the ground, staring at him in a daze. Li Yundong hadn't heard the previous conversation between Xueqi and Ding Nan, so he didn't know that there was a huge gap between the two girls, who used to be inseparable. He nodded to Xueqi and asked, "Are you okay?" Xueqi stared at Li Yundong in a daze, as if she couldn't believe that she had narrowly escaped death. Her eyes seemed to be wandering, and for a moment, she didn't answer Li Yundong's question. Seeing that Xueqi didn't respond, Li Yundong thought that Xueqi had been scared silly, so he turned to Ding Nan and asked, "Are you all right?" Ding Nan's eyes were fixed on Li Yundong, and her snow-white teeth were biting hard on her bright red lips. Her eyes were wandering, but like Xueqi, she didn't say a word. At this time, the teachers on the rooftop of the teaching building finally came to their senses. One by one, they rushed to the edge of the teaching building and looked down. Principal Ka saw a figure lying in a pool of blood at the bottom of the teaching building. His heart suddenly beat violently, and he almost fainted on the spot. "Go to see." Fortunately, some of the teachers had sharp eyes. They pointed at Xueqi with ecstasy and said, "She's fine. Xueqi is fine. Look, she's still moving." At this moment, the teachers seemed to have collectively come back to their senses. They were no longer as weak as before. A group of people rushed down the building like a gust of wind, shouting as they ran, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way!" Principal Ku and the others quickly walked up to Xueqi and carefully looked the girl up and down. After confirming that she had only scratched a little, they immediately breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what, this was a blessing in disguise. The teachers surrounded Xueqi like stars surrounding the moon. No one paid any attention to Zhao Yujian, who was lying in a pool of blood, and Ding Nan, who was still in a state of shock. Needless to say, there was still a teacher lying dead in the classroom and a student who was still in a coma. Chris looked on coldly. Bureaucrat, she muttered under her breath. Although her words were not heard by the teachers around her, her use of her phone to record the scene caught Director Chen's attention. The dean, who had been scared shitless by Zhao Yujin a few days ago, was now standing in front of the students with his belly puffed out. He looked like the savior of the school. Hey, who gave you permission to record this? Director Chen said angrily, pointing at Chris. I have the right to freedom of the press. Chris yelled back. Director Chen sneered and snatched the phone out of her hand. You know where you are right now. Do you think you're in America? Crazy's phone was snatched from her. She gritted her teeth in anger and pounced on Director Chen. Director Chen knew that if the video on the phone was leaked, the school would be doomed. The whole world would know about it. Director Chen quickly removed the memory card from the phone and tossed it back to Chris. Here's your phone, he said. We'll give you the memory card after we confirm the recording. Chris risked her life to get the recording, but now it was someone else's. She was so angry that she wanted to snatch the phone back, but John stopped her. Hardadef was surprisingly calm. He shook his head at Chris and whispered, Chris, calm down. Don't start a conflict at this time. Let's solve it through official channels. Chris spat on the ground. I'm going to complain about him. Director Chen laughed when he heard that Chris was going to complain about him. He walked over to Principal Ku and whispered something to him. Then, he pointed at Chris. Principal Ku glanced at Chris, then patted Director Chen on the shoulder and praised him. Chris and John felt a chill run down their spines. They knew that there was no way to solve the problem through the government. Chris gritted her teeth. What a bunch of snakes and rats. John shook his head. Forget it. Let's go check on Master. Chris cursed a few times and turned to look at Li Yundong. At this time, Li Yundong's hands were no longer in danger. The swelling had also subsided, and the speed at which they had swelled up was as fast as a balloon. Chris forgot about the quarrel and the unhappiness from before. She stared at Li Yundong's arms with widened eyes. How is this possible? Your arms were like balloons just now. Why are they fine now? Su Chan turned her head to look at her, then raised her chin and said proudly, I told you that you don't know anything about medicine. Are you convinced now? Chris's face was flushed, but she was straightforward and honest, unlike the Easterners who had so many twists and turns in their thinking. I'm convinced, but can you teach me? Su Chan snorted and looked away. I don't accept barbarians as my students. Don't even think about Yundong. He won't accept you as his students. Crazy was very puzzled and aggrieved. What era was this? How could they still call themselves barbarians? Why does this girl think like a century-old woman? I have Chinese blood. Chris yelled. My grandmother is Chinese. Li Yundong and Su Chan were both taken aback. Your grandmother is Chinese, Li Yundong said, looking at each other. Chris nodded. Yes. My grandmother's name is Lin Guoying. She's from Hunan, China. I learned my Chinese and China's national studies from her. Li Yundong wasn't very friendly to Chris, but his attitude was much better than Su Chan's. No wonder your Chinese is so good, he said with a smile. But you have a Hunan accent. You need to fix that. Chris shrugged her shoulders, not taking this kind of thing seriously at all. Why should I change? It's fine as long as you understand me, right? There are 52 states in the United States. I've never heard of anyone from the other 51 states learning Washington's accent. Li Yundong smiled. He didn't want to argue with Chris about this. He turned his head and looked at Zhao Yujian, who was lying in a pool of blood. His eyes were filled with sympathy and sorrow. In all fairness, Zhao Yujian was excellent in every way except for his narrow-mindedness and extreme personality. He was also very attractive to the opposite sex. After his courtship failed, he chose to walk the most extreme path and achieved a terrible self-destruction. Li Yundong suddenly remembered something Su Chan had said to him the last time he visited Zhao Yujian in the hospital. He couldn't help but say in a low voice, even a great cultivator shouldn't be ignorant of karma. Su Chan, who had been listening to his words, couldn't help but sigh. Yeah, she said. When I saw Zhao Yujian's mother being so obedient and protective of him, I thought that karma was already set in stone. It wouldn't end well. Now it seems like it's true.
Chris, who was standing to one side, saw that Li Yunyang had successfully saved these people who were going to die and resolved a disaster that might have worsened. But her face was full of sadness and there was no trace of joy between her eyebrows.
She couldn't help but ask, "You became the savior today, but why are you not happy at all?" Li Yundong shook his head and sighed. "I don't want to be the savior of the world. If I had a choice, I wouldn't have wanted this to happen." Chris looked at Li Yundong seriously and saw that he was speaking sincerely and straightforwardly. He didn't seem to be hypocritical. She couldn't help but admire this boy's breadth of mind. She thought to herself, apart from his supernatural skills, this boy is really manly and has the heart of a bodhisattva. If a boy like this were in my university, the number of girls who wanted to ask him out every week would probably line up from Harrisburg, the capital of Pennsylvania, to Washington. She recalled the scene where Li Yundong had pranked John and teased her. Then, she recalled Li Yundong's devil-like performance in the classroom when she was having sex. The blonde, blue-eyed Caucasian was in a daze for a moment. She didn't know which one was the real Li Yundong. Li Yundong stopped talking to Chris. He stared unblinkingly at the pool of blood not far away. For a moment, he was a little dazed. All the reasons before had led to all the results today. But what kind of cause would be planted today, and what kind of fruit would be reaped in the future? Buddhists talked about karma and retribution, and Taoists talked about the cycle of heaven. No one knew what kind of changes this terrible tragedy would bring to everyone here. Happy reading. OM/. Chapter 82. Go to watch net. According to the rules of the movie, the police were always the last to appear on the scene. This time they did not break this rule. They were the last to appear on the scene, even slower than the reporters who had arrived. Go to watch net. The arrival of the police and the reporters made Tiannan University even more chaotic and lively. The police cordoned off the entire building and cleared the surrounding area. The university committee held an emergency meeting. After deciding on the ideological policy of blocking all news, the teachers quickly took action. They gathered all the students in the class and sternly warned them not to spread the news. Fortunately, Li Yundong had played the role of an unparalleled savior in this incident. Even Director Chen, who regarded Li Yundong as a thorn in his side, did not dare to stand up and criticize Li Yundong. Although they had quickly received an order from the publicity department to confirm that such news could not be released to the public, there were still some curious reporters who asked the students in detail about what had happened. Some of Li Yundong's classmates recounted what had happened in the classroom to the reporters, still in a state of shock. Although everyone described it in a different way, when they mentioned Li Yundong's miraculous dodging of the bullets, all of them widened their eyes, and their expressions were filled with excitement and fanaticism. "You mean, Li Yundong was able to dodge bullets?" A reporter couldn't help but show a strange expression after hearing the description of a boy in front of him. The boy nodded vigorously, looking as if he had seen Megatron attacking the Earth and Ultraman dominating the universe. The reporter couldn't help but burst out laughing. He suddenly felt that it was impolite to laugh, so he held back his laughter and said to the student, "I'm sorry. Please continue." I just couldn't help it." The boy's face turned red and he shouted, "You don't believe me?" The reporter suppressed his laughter and said, "It's not that I don't believe you, but the things you said are unbelievable." The boy was flustered and exasperated. He felt that the reporter's distrust of Li Yundong's deeds was a great humiliation to him. "I'm telling the truth. If you don't believe me, you can go and ask someone else." At this time, a girl at the side also said loudly, "I can testify, I saw it with my own eyes." The reporter glanced at them. After he finally stopped laughing, he said seriously, "Listen, I've studied psychology. I know that sometimes people will develop a psychological illness after suffering a major trauma. This psychological illness is called traumatic delusional disorder. You will arrange and fantasize everything you see according to your own imagination, and think that everything is real. Watch net. Literature. It took him a lot of effort to explain, but the boy in front of him looked at him with an extremely hostile gaze. Even the girl next to him pulled his sleeve and said, "He said that we are sick in our hearts. Ignore him. I think he is the one who is sick." The boy nodded and glared at the reporter before turning around and leaving. Only the reporter was left standing there in a daze. The tragedy did not worsen under Li Yundong's efforts, but it still had a strong impact on Tiannan University. The school council immediately sent compensation to the families of the victims and reached an agreement to keep their mouths shut. Although the terrifying skills that Li Yundong had displayed during the rescue had been questioned, fortunately, with Xueqi's support after the incident, he had not suffered too much interference. He had only made a statement under the police's questioning and regained his freedom. One day later, the exchange meeting between Tiannan University and the University of Pennsylvania in the United States came to an end. It could be considered a very unsatisfactory ending. The foreign friends from the United States, whether they were teachers or students, all shook their heads at what they had seen. The only thing that made them feel that the trip was not in vain was that they had seen a superhuman figure here. Almost every day, the exchange students talked about Li Yundong, this amazing student. John and Chris even discussed every day. How did Li Yundong achieve such a supernatural performance? It was a pity that Westerners were always used to explaining everything with their deep-rooted scientific theories, so no matter how they tried to explain it, they felt that it did not make sense. When our protagonist, like the giant Antaeus, caught an adult woman who fell from the 5th floor, the tragedy finally came to an end. Throughout the entire incident, the terrifying skills displayed by our protagonist made me curious about him once again. What is the reason for him to possess such power that surpasses mortals? Chris sat in the cabin of the plane, facing her computer, her fingers quickly typing line after line of text. When she finished typing the last letter, she couldn't help but let out a long sigh, staring blankly at the text on the screen. Go to C. Net. Super_speed. More. New. At this time, there was a snapping sound next to her. Chris turned her head and saw John squatting beside the aisle, smiling at her and saying, "Do you need any service?" The girl next to Chris was very sensible and said to John, "I'll change seats with you." John smiled at her. "Oh, you're so sweet and considerate, my baby." Chris smiled as she watched John sit down next to her and said, "Help me get a glass of water." John smiled and pressed the service light on the plane. He called the stewardess over and asked for a glass of water for Chris. Then, he leaned in front of the computer and read in a low voice, "When I was very young, I heard from my grandmother that there were some very mysterious people in the distant eastern continent. They had unparalleled power, just like Achilles in Western mythology, the giant Antaeus, and so on. They were demigods and demigods. However, their power came from their unremitting efforts in cultivation, while the power of the heroes in Western mythology came from their divine bloodlines." At this point, John turned his head and said to Chris, "What are you writing? Are you writing your memoirs?" Chris stretched. Her upper body outlined a beautiful and sexy curve. She said, "This is a documentary report that I was going to write to the Philadelphia Daily. Unfortunately, the pictures I took with my mobile phone were confiscated by them, so the credibility of this thing has been greatly reduced. Otherwise, I would have made a lot of money from this thing." John laughed and said, "Stop dreaming, Chris. If we hadn't seen it with our own eyes, would you believe that there is a person in this world who can dodge bullets? Even if these things are recorded in videos and posted on the internet, people will say that they are falsified." John pointed at his eyes and ears and said sarcastically, "People always believe in their own eyes and are not willing to believe in their own ears." Chris looked thoughtful. She stared blankly at the vast clouds outside the window of the plane. After a while, she turned her head and said to John, "Do you believe it, John?" John nodded vigorously. "Of course I believe in my own eyes. This guy is a legend. When I go back, I will apply for a transfer to China and apply for a visa. I want to come here and be his disciple." Chris saw the fanaticism in John's eyes and was lost in thought for a moment. John asked, "Are you coming, Chris? Aren't you very curious and interested in these magical things in this land?" Chris hesitated for a moment, then sighed and said, "I don't know, John. I'll have to go back and ask my grandmother." John encouraged her, "Don't hesitate, Chris. For your Pulitzer Prize, for your yearning for Chinese culture, you should come. Think about everything we've seen from that man since we came here. He sent people flying 2 or 3 meters away, knocked over a dozen criminals with steel knives with his bare hands, dodged bullets from a few meters away, caught an adult woman falling from the 4th floor, and immediately caught another adult woman falling from the 5th floor with his hands." John said with an exaggerated expression, "God, even the craziest fantasist wouldn't dare to imagine such things." His exaggerated tone attracted the attention of a boy sitting in the front row. The boy turned around and said to him with a smile, "Hey, John, you've become his fan. A girl next to the boy also said with a smile. I'm also his fan. Didn't you see how he put his hands back after they were dislocated? I swear to God, he's definitely the most manly man I've ever seen. If I could have sex with him in bed, I would be so excited. God, I suddenly look forward to how a man like this will perform in bed. Westerners were open and bold about sex, not hiding their preferences at all. The girl's words caused the exchange students on the plane to burst into laughter. The boy next to her teased, Chris, didn't you see that he already has a girlfriend? And she's very beautiful. Chris shrugged and said with a regretful expression, I saw it. If it wasn't for that, I would have asked him out long ago. John joked with the students in the front row and said, Hey, don't get any ideas about my master. This sentence made the students around him laugh and say, John, are you really going to worship this Chinese man as your master? The smile on John's face disappeared and was replaced by a serious and solemn expression. Of course, he's a legend. I want to follow him and worship him as my master. The students laughed and said, like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, who worshipped the Jedi Knight Master Obi-Wan as his master. John nodded vigorously. Yes, like Luke Skywalker worshipped Master Obi-Wan. He's my Master Obi-Wan. The students around him laughed and said, Be careful that he doesn't accept you. Thinking of Li Yundong's experience of pranking him, Hardadef's face showed embarrassment and frustration. He muttered, I'm not afraid. I know there's a saying in Chinese. It's called spirit, Chris, what's it called? John tried to recall the Chinese phrase that Chris had taught him in Chinese. Chris couldn't help but laugh and said, Idiot, its sincerity can split metal and stone. John grinned and rolled his tongue. Sincerity is straight, and gold is split? Chris giggled, rubbed her forehead, and shook her head. John, you still have a long way to go. After saying that, she ignored John, who was trying hard to learn Chinese, and looked at the vast sea of clouds outside the plane. In a trance, she seemed to see a world that she had never seen before at the end of the sea of clouds in this land. He's a legend. I want to worship him as my master. John's voice kept echoing in Chris's mind. The second and third watch were at 9 p.m. Happy reading. OM/. Chapter 83. Go to watch net. By the time Chris and the others returned to the United States, Tiannan University had slowly regained its peace. Due to the strict ban, no one could find anything related to it in the newspapers or even on the internet. Watch net. After the bloodstains were washed away, some of the students who passed by even had the illusion that these things had never happened. Zhao Yujian and the two people he had shot would never come back to life. Li Yundong's name had spread across the entire campus, and he had become an unparalleled celebrity. If you don't know who Li Yundong is, it will be useless even if you go around the campus. Although the school board had even closed the school forum in order to prevent the ban, it was better to prevent the public from talking than to prevent a flood. These college students had nowhere to vent their energy. They couldn't go on the forum, so they talked about Li Yundong in private all the time. In this day and age, it was too easy to find a person, not to mention that this person was their classmate. In less than half a day, Li Yundong's family background had been clearly investigated by the members of the 8 Trigrams Party. But when the curious members of the 8 Trigrams Party found out about Li Yundong's background, they were all shocked and even more curious. This guy's background, and experience are no different from ours. The 8 Trigrams Party members exclaimed in surprise. He didn't have an extraordinary family background, nor did he have a mysterious and unfathomable master, nor did he have any extraordinary talent or opportunities. According to the information they had found, Li Yundong was no different from any college student in the world. But why did such a guy, who looked ordinary in all aspects and had an ordinary background, suddenly complete the most gorgeous turn in his life? Sometimes, the more mysterious and inconceivable a person was, the more curious people would be about him, and the more they would worship and revere him. Li Yundong had no idea that he had risen from an idol to a hero at Tiannan University. On the second day after Chris and the others left Tiannan City, the sun had just emerged from the horizon when Li Yundong woke up from his deep meditation and let out a long sigh. Watch net. 7K. Oath M. Li Yundong opened his eyes and looked at the vast sky and bustling city outside the balcony. For a moment, he was filled with emotion. As a heartless otaku, it was impossible for Li Yundong to remain indifferent when he suddenly experienced these things,
especially when a fresh life fell from the sky and appeared in front of him in a bloody mess. If he could still remain indifferent like this, it could only be said that this person was too cold-blooded and cruel. After witnessing all of this and experiencing it personally, Li Yundong began to think about a very profound question for the first time. What is cause and effect? When Li Yundong got home, he was still thinking about this question in his mind. If Zhao Yujin's mother's endless pampering and spoiling was the cause of Zhao Yujin's death, then what was the cause of Zhao Yujin's death? What was the effect of Zhao Yujin's death? What was the cause and what was the effect of Li Yundong's death? Li Yundong looked at the vast sky and then at the busy city streets. He suddenly thought that the sky was so vast and free. As long as he could fly, he could go wherever he wanted. The sea was so vast that as long as he could breathe in the sea, he could go wherever he wanted. But humans couldn't. They couldn't fly, and they couldn't breathe in the sea. Therefore they could only stay on land. They locked themselves in a city and divided the streets. Pedestrians and cars were clearly separated and orderly. Li Yunyang suddenly realized something. People can't fly or swim. A single human being is a weak life. This is the reason. Therefore, human beings have built cities with strong order on the land, one after another. But what kind of restraint and confinement is behind this order? Li Yunyang thought to himself. Li Yunyang suddenly realized something. Li Yundong clenched his fists. He could feel a powerful force flowing through his body. He had confirmed one thing. He had power far beyond that of a mortal. This power must have something to do with Su Chan. Thinking of this, Li Yundong couldn't help but smile bitterly. When he couldn't help but ask Su Chan about it, the girl blinked her eyes and avoided his question. Come on, it's time to go to school. Su Chan called after him, carrying Li Yundong's school bag. She was much more enthusiastic about going to school than Li Yundong. Go to CNET. Rainbow Carrot * literature under learning % super #speed. Update. Li Yundong glanced at the time, stood up, and said with a smile, It's only 7 o'clock. You're going out? Su Chan looked at Li Yundong and walked up to him. She looked at him carefully and suddenly asked, Have you been thinking about something recently? Li Yundong chuckled. Isn't that obvious? How could I not think about something after such a serious shooting? Su Chan shook her head. No. I mean, are you thinking about philosophical questions about the world, life, yourself, and so on? Li Yundong looked at Su Chan in surprise. Are you a roundworm in my stomach? How do you know what I'm thinking? Su Chan giggled and said, Bah, you're the roundworm. Disgusting. So, what are you thinking about? Li Yundong looked at Su Chan seriously and said slowly, word by word, Ever since you appeared, I've gained a very magical power, a power that transcends mortals. Just now I was thinking, I'm trapped in such a powerful mechanized cage. Can my power break this mechanized order? Can I surpass everyone in this world and become a special life form? Li Yundong chuckled and lowered his head, looking a little surprised. Am I very arrogant? Su Chan, however, held his arm with a smile and said, My lord, you are so modest. Don't you know that you have already surpassed other people's lives? Li Yundong nodded. Is that so? Why do you say that? Su Chan smiled and pointed at her small nose. It's because you have me by your side. Oh, Li Yundong said. Is that so? Then hurry up and tell me honestly. Who exactly are you? Su Chan used her trump card again. She shook Li Yundong's arm and said coquettishly, Oh, don't keep asking. I'll tell you when I can. Li Yundong's bones softened when he heard Su Chan's sweet voice. He said helplessly, Okay, I won't ask. I'll see when you tell me. Su Chan smiled secretly in her heart and said to herself, You have now passed the primary realm of spirit concentration in the third heaven, and have begun to cultivate in the intermediate realm of seeking, proving the way, and enlightenment. Most cultivators who entered this stage would feel confused about their great power. They had to find a path that was most suitable for them to cultivate. There were thousands of cultivation paths, and it was impossible for all of them to cultivate. Thus, at this time, cultivators had to divide themselves into subjects like high school students. They had to choose the cultivation path that was most suitable for them and decide the direction of their cultivation in the future. Should they study Chinese, economics, or law? After entering this stage, because Li Yundong began to think at a deeper level,
His previous impulsive and restless temperament slowly calmed down, and his words and deeds also began to become steady and measured. The two of them left the house, had breakfast, and went to school. As soon as they entered the school, Li Yundong found that all the students who saw him were stunned, and then they all opened a path for him and Suchan smiled and whispered to Li Yundong, "You're famous now." Li Yundong smiled. "It's better not to be famous like that." Suchan looked at the eyes of the students on her left and right, and she couldn't help but raise her chin high. It was as if she was happier that these people had lined up to welcome Li Yundong than they had to welcome her. "This is the partner I've chosen. Sooner or later, he will ride the seven-colored mythological beast and look down on the world. The colorful clouds in the sky will be the carpet under his feet, and all the gods and Buddhas will make way for him." Suchan looked at Li Yundong with joy. A warm current surged in her chest, as if it was full. Excitement, joy, and a sense of accomplishment mixed together, making her feel indescribable. From the beginning, she had made up her mind to use Li Yundong as a human cauldron to harvest yang and nourish yin. Now, she was doing her best to help and guide Li Yundong. Just like Li Yundong, Suchan had completed the most important transformation of her life. For Suchan, there was nothing more satisfying than watching the boy in front of her grow up little by little. Li Yundong was not used to all the gazes around him, but if Chris and the others were still here, they would definitely line the road to welcome him. They would even cheer and applaud him like he was a hero. But then again, Easterners were introverted people. When the university students saw Li Yundong, they all stepped aside to make way for him. They all looked at him with admiration and reverence. That was the best they could do. However, there were exceptions to everything. When Li Yundong and Suchan sat down in the classroom, a head poked through the door after a while. A pair of bright eyes scanned the room, and when she saw Li Yundong, she immediately smiled. "He's here." Feng Na turned to Cheng, who was standing outside the classroom. As they spoke, the two girls trotted all the way to Li Yundong and sat down beside him. They didn't say anything, just blinking their eyes at Li Yundong, as if they were looking at some rare treasure. After the incident with Zhao Yujian, Li Yundong's temperament had begun to change. In the past, he would have made a big fuss. But now, he just looked at the two girls without batting an eyelid. He didn't say a word either. The two girls and the boy stared at each other for a while. Then, Feng Na clicked her tongue and sighed. "You're different. You're different. A person who deserves to be called a hero is different. Yub." In Feng Na's eyes, although Li Yundong's heroic spirit was still piercing, his black eyes had become much deeper. He sat there without saying a word, but he had the calmness of someone who had experienced life and death. This was something she had never felt before, and it was something that boys of his age didn't have. Feng Na stared at Li Yundong as she spoke. Suddenly, her heart began to race like a little deer. The word she was about to say to Li Yundong got stuck in her throat. All right. I'm done with the 2 updates on the weekly flower list last week. Whether or not I can do it next week is up to you guys. Happy reading. OM/. Chapter 84. Go to watch net. Fortunately, Li Yundong helped her out. Li Yundong smiled and said, "What hero?" Cheng noticed that Feng Na's ears had turned red. She knew that Feng Na was flustered, so she immediately handed her notebook to Li Yundong with a smile. "Hey, hero. Come and sign this. I'm officially your number 2 die-hard fan." Li Yundong took the notebook and glanced at it. "You're giving me an economics textbook," he said with a smile. "That's not sincere at all." Cheng stuck her tongue out and giggled. "It's fine. Just sign it here." Li Yundong didn't turn down the offer like he used to. Instead, he smiled and picked up the pen, flipped open the book, and signed his name on the title page. Feng Na watched Li Yundong's every move intently. She felt that the boy in front of her had suddenly become a lot more mature, and also a lot more unfamiliar. Go to watch net. 7K. Oath M. Rainbow carrot asterisk literature _ learning % super hashtag speed. Update. When Li Yundong handed the textbook to Cheng, Feng Na snatched it from his hand and rolled it into a cylinder. Then she put the textbook in front of Li Yundong's mouth and said with a straight face, "Li Yundong, what were you thinking when you were saving the girl?" Li Yundong couldn't help but laugh. "What else could I be thinking?" "Nothing at all." Feng Na threw the notebook at Li Yundong and pretended to be angry. As the hero of Tiannan University, how could you not be thinking about anything? Answer me. Although Li Yundong had suddenly encountered a major event and become much more mature and steady, his character would not change because of it. Seeing Feng Na acting like this, he deliberately kept a straight face and said very seriously, "At that moment, I thought of my motherland, the party, and the peoples." Without waiting for him to finish, Feng Na and Cheng Cheng couldn't keep their faces straight and burst into laughter. Feng Na smiled at Li Yundong. "Thank God, you're still the guy I know." Li Yundong touched his cheek and said with a smile, "Have I changed a lot?" Feng Na looked at Li Yundong seriously. "You've changed a lot since the first time I met you. And you've changed really fast. But I still like the way you used to be. You're straightforward, cheerful, and you laugh whenever you want." Li Yundong laughed and said, "Am I not like this now?" They chatted and laughed. When it was time for class, Li Yundong noticed that Feng Na and Cheng Cheng had no intention of leaving. "Aren't you guys going to class today?" he asked curiously. Feng Na knew that Li Yundong's class was about to start and she should leave. She wanted to leave, but it was as if her feet and buttocks were rooted to the ground. She couldn't move an inch. Cheng Cheng, who was standing beside her, once again helped her out. "Today, we have a self-study class. We're sophomores, so we can review our previous homework. Reviewing the past will help you learn the new." Li Yundong smiled and said, "Really? But I can see that you have the demeanor of a reporter. You can consider this profession in the future." When Feng Na heard this, a look of surprise appeared on her face. "Really? You think so too?" "I really did think of that." Li Yundong looked at Feng Na seriously and said, "I'm just being polite. Don't take it seriously." Feng Na's face fell. "Damn it! How dare you trick me?"
Li Yundong laughed and said, "Who told you to fool me before?"
While they were talking, the bell rang and a few students entered the classroom. Watch net. Rainbow caret asterisk literature _ learning % super hashtag speed. Update. Ding Nan was the first to enter the classroom. She was a tall and beautiful girl in high heels. She was still dressed fashionably and sexily as she walked into the classroom, as if nothing had happened to her before. However, when Ding Nan saw Li Yundong in the classroom, she froze for a moment, then smiled and nodded at Li Yundong. Cheng Cheng, who was sitting beside Li Yundong, nudged Feng Na with her elbow and sighed. "Oh no, you've got yourself another love rival." Li Yundong noticed that Ding Nan hadn't entered the classroom with Xueqi this time. "Where's Xueqi? Isn't she inseparable from Ding Nan?" Speak of the devil. Not long after Ding Nan entered the classroom, Xueqi entered the classroom as well. The beautiful girl entered the classroom with a book in her arms. Her eyes scanned the empty seats, and when she saw Ding Nan's hostile and provocative gaze, she paused for a moment.
Then, she glanced over as if nothing had happened.
But when she saw Li Yundong, a complicated look appeared in Xueqi's eyes. She dodged Li Yundong's gaze in a panic, then found a random seat and sat down. The last person to enter the classroom was the teacher who taught the history of China's ancient literature. The teacher walked into the classroom and glanced at the students. Then, he said something that shocked even the gods and ghosts alike. "The final exams are coming up, and there are only a few classes left. Now, let me highlight the key points for you all." The classroom burst into an uproar. "Wow, teacher, are you serious? The final exams are coming up? It's only June, isn't it? There's still a month left, isn't there? Yeah, there's no need to highlight the key points so early, is there? Teacher, just send us the exam questions directly." The ancient literature and history teacher glanced at the students below the podium and said sternly, "There was a very serious incident of violence in the school, so the school committee has discussed and decided to bring forward the final exam. At most, it will be in the middle of June. Therefore, you'd better seriously remember everything I say from now on, because it will directly affect your final grades and credits." Then, the ancient literature and history teacher shouted, "Is Li Yundong here?" Li Yundong was a name that was unparalleled in Tiannan University. Although all the students in the class knew that this boy was their classmate, they were still shocked by the name. They all turned their heads in unison to look at Li Yundong, as if his name had pierced their ears like thunder. "Go to Kanban." Li Yundong raised a hand and said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing, "I'm here, teacher." The teacher's surname was Ma, and he was an old man with a pair of thick glasses on the bridge of his nose. He lowered his head slightly and glanced at Li Yundong through the glasses. Big hero, why are you sitting at the back? Can you hear me? The students in the class snickered. Being teased by a classmate and being teased by a teacher were two different feelings. Li Yundong felt his cheeks heat up. I can hear you, teacher. The ancient literature and history teacher nodded and said, It's good that you can hear it. If you fail this subject because you can't hear it clearly, then you'll be the first hero of Tiannan University to be expelled because of poor grades, too many failed subjects, and substandard credits. Li Yundong couldn't keep his cool anymore. What? He stammered. No way. Sun Li, the class monitor in the front row, turned around and looked at him with disappointment. Idiot, don't you know that you've already skipped more than 50 classes? There are 8 courses for this semester's final exam. You only need to take 1, because the other 7 have been disqualified. Plus, if you don't pass the remaining courses, then your credits will be deducted because you missed all the courses for the semester. If that happens, you won't be able to graduate even if you get a full score for all the courses in the remaining 2 years. Li Yundong nearly fainted. His eyes were wide open, and he couldn't speak for a moment. The students in the classroom burst into laughter when they saw Li Yundong's expression. Some of them felt like an unreachable hero had just walked into the mortal world. The image of a hero suddenly became real. Yeah, no matter how awesome Superman is, he still has to wear underwear, even though he likes to wear underwear on the outside. No matter how otherworldly Lin Daiyu is, she still has to eat, drink, and poop. No matter how strong I am, I can't just leave this society. I need a place to live, a place to eat, a car to ride, and a big-bellied Su-chan. Li Yundong frowned and thought to himself, which part of it doesn't cost money? Just then, a boy in the front row turned around and whispered, That's okay, boss. I'll pass you a note during the exam. Li Yundong was touched. Good bro. May I ask your name? The boy looked sad. No way. I've been your classmate for almost 2 years, and you still don't know my surname? Boss, you're such a character, aren't you? Li Yundong smiled sheepishly. I used to keep a low profile. The boy smiled fawningly. It's okay, boss. My name is Zhang Qian. Zhang as in Zhang Xueyo, and Qian as in Lu Qian. I'll wrap your note for you during the exam. But can you teach me your kung fu? Ha! Li Yundong was stunned. Seeing that the boy was being so shameless, one of the girls immediately turned around and scolded him. Zhang Qian, you disappoint me. How can you take advantage of me? Besides, how did you know how to arrange the seats during the exam? I put you on the first floor, but if you have the guts, you can pass the note to the second floor. Li Yundong nodded vigorously, adding insult to injury. Yes, well said. The girl turned her face to Li Yundong and smiled brightly. The speed at which she changed her expression was astonishing. She smiled like a love-struck fool and said, Handsomely, if I were sitting next to you during the exam, I would definitely offer my test paper to you without asking for anything. Before she could finish, she heard a girl next to her say in a sarcastic tone, And your asterisk asterisk asterisk. The girl's face turned red and she pounced on Li Yundong, pinching and hitting him. The students around them burst into laughter. Li Yundong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't know what to say. The teacher on the podium couldn't stand it anymore. He coughed and patted the blackboard with the blackboard brush. Hey, are you guys acting in a sitcom? Don't you want to pass this subject? Only then did the students sit down obediently. They opened their textbooks, picked up their pens, and looked at the teacher eagerly, waiting for him to highlight the key points. Teacher Ma nodded and said with satisfaction, Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for you this time. It's easy to highlight the key points. I'll make it clear in a few sentences. Li Yundong also opened his textbook and waited for Teacher Ma to get to the point. Hey, did you really skip so many classes? Feng Na whispered. Li Yundong rolled his eyes at her. Can you not touch my sore spot? Feng Na glanced at Li Yundong regretfully and sighed. It was a last-minute effort. Alas. I probably won't be able to see you next semester, but don't worry, I'll miss you. We'll erect a monument for you at school. Chung Chung chimed in. Every year on this day, we'll burn incense for you. Feng Na pursed her lips and smiled. What do you want? We'll burn it for you. Li Yundong said angrily. Hey, are you two going to do a crosstalk?
Li Yundong said angrily.
One more word and I'll throw you out. Feng Na and Cheng Cheng looked at each other and burst into laughter.
Don't worry, Feng Na said.
Since the teacher said that the key points are easy and can be explained in a few sentences, it means that the scope of the test is not very wide. It will be easy to memorize and pass. We believe that you'll be fine. Well, at least you said something reasonable. Li Yundong said resentfully. On the podium, Teacher Ma said, "Students, please open the table of contents of your textbooks." The students looked at each other. Open the table of contents. I've never seen anything like this before. Li Yundong flipped open the thick textbook and saw the dense black characters inside. He felt a headache coming on. Fortunately, Teacher Ma's next words made him feel relieved. Wei, Jin, Northern and Southern dynasties. Please tick it out. Li Yundong did as he was told and ticked off the Wei, Jin, Northern and Southern dynasties period. Then Teacher Ma said, 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms period. Please tick it out. Okay, that's all. The whole class burst into an uproar. They were shocked and excited. Wow, that's all? Just these 2 chapters? Holy crap, the content of the test is so narrow. It's so easy to memorize. Of course, there aren't many important people in this period. Other than the 7 Genin sons and Tao Yuan Ming, there's no one else. God, Jesus Christ, Allah, Gautama Buddha. The heavens really have eyes. With such a narrow range of questions, I'm sure I'll pass this test. Feng Na, who was beside him, pointed at him and laughed. Are you relieved now? She said. Are you afraid that you won't be able to memorize such a small amount of content? Teacher Ma, who was on the podium, waited for the students to finish chattering excitedly. Then, he slowly said something that directly sent all the students to hell. The content that I asked you to mark out is not the content for the test. Everything else has to be tested. Well, okay, that's all for today. You guys should revise well. After that, he rolled up the textbook on the podium and left. The classroom was dead silent. All the students were petrified. Happy reading. OM/. Chapter 85. Go to King.
Calm, what the hell?
The teacher is messing with us.
What the hell?
How can he draw the key points like that? Yeah, he's so irresponsible. He finished it in 2 minutes? What's the difference between that and not drawing at all? Hey, look on the bright side. At least you know that the Wei, Jin, Northern and Southern dynasties and 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms won't be tested. Bah, I think the teacher is messing with us on purpose. What if he fails the test again? Ugh. You have a point. The teacher is so stupid. The students in the classroom were on the verge of rebelling. Li Yundong couldn't help but go crazy. What the hell? He's obviously messing with me. Feng Na and Cheng Cheng looked at each other. Get over it, Feng Na said sympathetically. At least you have half a month to memorize this content. Li Yundong picked up the thick textbook of ancient China literature and history and said angrily, damn it. This is such a thick and big book. I might as well memorize the Kangxi dictionary. At least the Kangxi dictionary is a few sizes smaller than this textbook. Are you sure you don't want me to burn something for you? Cheng Cheng said. As far as I know, there's a discount for free sex these days. Li Yundong swatted the textbook at Cheng Cheng. Bah jinx. Cheng Cheng dodged it with a laugh. Su Chan, who had been silent all this time, looked at Li Yundong with a confused expression. What are you guys laughing at? Li Yundong turned his head and smiled at her. His smile was uglier than a crying face. Nothing. Feng Na stuck her tongue out and said to Li Yundong, forget it, we're leaving. We won't disturb your study. Good luck. There's still half a month left. Maybe you'll make it in time? After that, she pulled Cheng Cheng out of the classroom. As soon as they left the classroom, Li Yundong heard the 2 girls laughing wildly outside the door. Damn it, he's so heartless and heartless. Li Yundong was furious. Su Chan grabbed Li Yundong's arm and blinked at him. What's wrong? Li Yundong covered his face and sighed. He pointed at the history textbook. The teacher is determined to make me fail this course. It'll take me 2 weeks to memorize this thick book. That's not difficult, Su Chan said in confusion.
Li Yundong dropped his hand and stared at Xueqi with wide eyes.
Not difficult? Let me see you recite it. Xueqi flipped to the first page and glanced at it quickly. She mumbled something under her breath, then closed the textbook and handed it to Li Yundong. I only read the first page, she said. I'll recite it to you. With that, Xueqi began to recite it aloud. At first, Li Yundong looked like he was waiting to see Xueqi make a fool of herself. But after a while, he found that Xueqi had memorized the first 3 paragraphs word for word. Although there were some pauses in the middle, her ability to memorize was still shocking. Hey, are you serious? You're so pretty, and yet you have such a photographic memory? Are you a prodigy? Li Yundong was surprised and amused at the same time. He pulled Xueqi into his arms and kissed her, as if no one else was around. Alas, what a pity. It would be great if I could bring you into the examination room during the exam. Li Yundong couldn't help but sigh. Xueqi giggled. You can do it too. Why don't you give it a try? Me? Li Yundong laughed and shook his head. I can't do it. I've never been able to memorize these things since I was a kid. I get dizzy just looking at so many words. Just give it a try. Xueqi said coquettishly. Li Yundong wasn't afraid of anything except Xueqi's coquettish tricks. He raised his hands high and said, Okay, I'll give it a try. You really don't want to give up. He flipped open the book and read a page, muttering the contents of the book. After a while, he closed the book and suddenly realized that he could clearly remember the contents he had recited before. Li Yundong was overjoyed. He quickly handed the textbook to Xueqi and flipped to the page he had just read. Can you check if I memorized it correctly? As he spoke, Li Yundong began to recite, and he recited fluently without any pause. When he was done, Li Yundong stared at Xueqi with wide eyes. What do you think? Did I memorize it correctly? Xueqi looked at Li Yundong calmly, but didn't say a word. Li Yundong's heart sank. Did I memorize it wrong? Seeing Li Yundong's nervousness, Xueqi suddenly laughed and pounced on him. She kissed him on the cheek. You're right. Li Yundong was overjoyed. Really? He took the textbook and compared it with Xueqi. Sure enough, he had a photographic memory. Li Yundong laughed heartily. I'm a genius. Seeing Li Yundong so happy, Xueqi also laughed happily. Li Yundong laughed for a while. Suddenly, something occurred to him. Why did my memory suddenly become so good? Is it because I practiced qi? Xueqi laughed. Of course. Then why? Li Yundong asked, puzzled. Peng Zhu lived from the Xia dynasty to the Zhou dynasty, Xueqi explained. He lived for more than 800 years. When he was 767 years old, he still didn't show any signs of aging. He was eloquent, quick-witted, and had a clear memory. This was because he was good at practicing qi. Li Yundong interrupted Xueqi in shock. What? There are people in this world who can live for more than 800 years? Xueqi blinked. Is it that strange? There are people in this world who can live forever. Li Yundong laughed. You read too many fairy tales. He wanted to tease Xueqi a little more, but then he remembered the incredible power he possessed. His smile froze on his face, and his heart began to race. He stared at Xueqi in bewilderment. A thought flashed through Li Yundong's mind. This girl has such a strange background. I don't even know how I got my power. Could it be that there really are immortals in this world? Li Yundong couldn't believe it. He was about to ask Xueqi about it when he heard a girl's voice say sorry. Li Yundong turned his head and saw Ding Nan looking at him with a smile. Li Yundong had never seen this kind of smile on this sarcastic girl before. For a moment, Li Yundong was stunned. What's the matter? Li Yundong asked, coming back to his senses. Ding Nan smiled and took a deep breath. She put her hands in front of her and nervously pinched each other's fingers. Her eyes kept darting around the classroom, and she said hesitantly, can I talk to you in private? Li Yundong looked at Ding Nan in confusion. He looked around. After the teacher had highlighted the key points, the students quickly left the classroom. There was no one else around. Li Yundong pointed at Xueqi and said, She's not an outsider. If you have something to say, just say it. Ding Nan's cheeks turned slightly red. She bit her lip and gave Li Yundong a resentful look. I want to talk to you alone. Can't I?
Although Li Yundong didn't have a good impression of Ding Nan, she was, after all, a rare beauty. She was tall, slim, and beautiful. At this time, she was looking at him with a resentful expression. It was hard for Li Yundong to say no to her.
All right.
Li Yundong turned to Xueqi and said, "Wait for me here for a moment."
Xueqi nodded obediently.
When Li Yundong and Ding Nan walked out of the classroom, Xueqi, who was still in the classroom, frowned at them. She hesitated for a moment, then stood up and followed Li Yundong and Ding Nan. Li Yundong and Ding Nan walked out of the classroom and went to the grove downstairs. Li Yundong looked around and said, "There's no one here. What's the matter?" Ding Nan was about the same height as Li Yundong. She stared at Li Yundong. Her usually sharp and mean eyes were now filled with gentleness and adoration. Before she could say anything, her cheeks had already turned red. Li Yundong looked at her in confusion, but he didn't say anything. Ding Nan, who usually looked mature and fashionable, now looked like a little girl who didn't know what to do. Her cheeks were red, and she stammered, "Thank you."
"Thank me for what?"
Li Yundong asked. Ding Nan raised her eyes and glanced at him.
"It's about the time you saved me last time."
Li Yundong laughed. "There's nothing to thank me for. I think that as long as it's within my power, other people would have done the same." Ding Nan shook her head slowly.
"No, it's not like that.
I've seen a lot of people in this world who put the icing on the cake, but I've never seen a person who would offer help in a time of need, let alone a person who would risk their own safety to save someone in a life-and-death situation like this. When I fell from the building, I thought I was going to die. But when you caught me in the air, I felt like I was back in my father's arms. So warm, so strong." Ding Nan raised her head and stared at Li Yundong with a fiery look in her eyes. Ding Nan's eyes were a little blurred. She stared at Li Yundong and said, "I just want to say thank you." Li Yundong felt a little uncomfortable under Ding Nan's gaze. He smiled. "You're welcome." Seeing that Li Yundong was about to leave, Ding Nan said anxiously, "You still hate me, don't you? You still think that I'm mean and merciless, and that I've humiliated you before, don't you?" Li Yundong couldn't help but fall silent after Ding Nan had seen through him. Ding Nan hurriedly tried to explain herself. She took a step forward and said, "Actually, I'm not that kind of person." Li Yundong smelled the tempting perfume on Ding Nan's body, which was mixed with a unique scent of female hormones. He frowned and took a step back. Her action of taking a step back tore Ding Nan's heart apart and crushed all her courage. Ding Nan's body froze, and the expression on her face seemed to freeze as well. Her face was pale, and she couldn't help but stare at the boy in front of her with despair and sadness.
"I know."
Ding Nan smiled sadly.
"I've said what I needed to say.
I won't bother you anymore." Li Yundong couldn't help but feel a little sad when he saw the girl in front of him. When he passed by Ding Nan, he couldn't help but turn around and say, "Actually, you don't have to wear this kind of perfume.
It smells very strong. I'm not used to it."
Ding Nan's eyes lit up, and her pale face suddenly regained its color and vitality. She grabbed Li Yundong's hand and said anxiously, "You don't like it? Then I won't use it in the future. If you don't want me to use it, then I won't use it." Li Yundong was startled. He quietly broke free from her hand and said, "Ding Nan, you are actually a very unique girl. You are beautiful and have a good figure. There will be many boys who will like you. You don't have to do this for me." Ding Nan stared at Li Yundong like a frightened deer.
What do you mean by that?"
she asked, trembling with fear. "Nothing," Li Yundong said, then turned around and left. Ding Nan watched Li Yundong's back as he walked 2 steps away. Suddenly she shouted, "Can I be friends with you?" Li Yundong turned around and suddenly smiled. "As long as you don't make people feel so uncomfortable in the future." Ding Nan's heart pounded when she heard that. She took 2 steps forward and said loudly, "I didn't mean to say that, but..." Before she could finish her words, a girl's voice suddenly rang out.
"Nan, what are you doing?"
Li Yundong and Ding Nan turned their heads and saw Xueqi looking at them with a smile on her face. As soon as Ding Nan saw Xueqi, a vicious and resentful look flashed in her eyes. She whispered to Li Yundong, "Don't go near her. She's a beautiful snake." After that, Ding Nan glared at Xueqi fiercely and left quickly.
Chapter 86. Please remember the domain name of this site. Or search on Baidu Sonlian Literature website. Li Yundong looked at Zhou Qin, who had just walked in surprise. Since when did your relationship with her become so strained? Haven't you two been through thick and thin together? Zhou Qin looked at Ding Nan's departing figure and sighed slightly. True love can only be found in adversity, she said faintly. Li Yundong looked at Zhou Qin doubtfully. What happened between the two of you? Zhou Qin withdrew her gaze from Ding Nan and flicked her long black hair, which was like a waterfall. She smiled slightly. Nothing, she said. Time will heal all wounds. By the way, I haven't formally thanked you yet. Li Yundong smiled. It's nothing. Actually, when you and Zhao Yujian fell, I didn't know which one was you. I just picked the one closest to you. Zhou Qin's eyes widened. Really? You're not lying to me, are you? Li Yundong smiled casually. Why would I lie to you? It was God who let you live, not me. So you don't have to thank me. Zhou Qin stared at Li Yundong and thought to herself. Could it be that God wants him to save me? Zhou Qin observed Li Yundong carefully. She could not see the slightest desire in the boy's eyes. He was neither envious of the power behind her nor greedy for her amazing beauty. Last time, she had invited Li Yundong to her birthday party. Of course, part of it was because she liked this boy, but it was also because she wanted to test him. Many people swore that they could resist all kinds of temptations. They looked dignified and awe-inspiring. Zhou Qin had always scoffed at such people. Born in a family of officials, she had seen many people slowly degenerate and corrupt in the face of power and desire. Whether a person could withstand such a test first depended on whether they had vanity, greed, and jealousy. Even if a person did not have these kinds of thoughts, it would be difficult for them to control themselves after they had tasted the pleasure of power and beauty. This was human nature. Weak and greedy, dark and depraved human nature. The precocious Zhou Qin could see human nature clearly and thoroughly. Therefore, among the opposite sex that she interacted with, she could always see the dark side hidden behind the disguise and hypocrisy of the opposite sex at a glance. In her opinion, when the opposite sex saw her beauty, it was rare that they wouldn't want to take her for themselves. After knowing her background, they would even crazily fantasize about taking her, and then taking over the power behind her. However, Li Yundong did not. Zhou Qin had carefully observed the boy's eyes more than once. Although she had also seen the amazing look in the boy's eyes, it was a kind of pure appreciation and admiration for beauty. There was not the slightest greedy desire to take possession of her. There was only satisfaction in the boy's eyes, a kind of happy satisfaction that came from indulging in love. This kind of satisfaction was simply superficial in Zhou Qin's eyes, but the boy was only immersed in such superficial happiness, as if he had the whole world with this little bit of superficial happiness. What a contented man. Zhou Qin suddenly sighed. You are really a very strange person. If it were someone else, I'm afraid that they would try to make friends with me and ask me to repay their kindness. Don't you know that I have the power to change a person's fate? Li Yundong secretly disagreed with her words. He said lightly, What does this power of yours have to do with me? As he said this, he remembered that Su Chan might be waiting anxiously in the classroom. He said, Sorry, I have to go to eat. Seeing that Li Yundong was about to leave, Zhou Qin hurriedly stopped in front of him and begged, Can you talk to me? Even if it's just for a little while. Li Yundong wanted to refuse, but he was born to be a person who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. Hearing Zhou Qin's pitiful words, he sighed and said, Okay, go ahead. Zhou Qin slowly walked up to Li Yundong and pointed at the small pavilion in the woods. Can we talk over there? Li Yundong walked up to the pavilion and glanced at it. The pavilion was surrounded by dense gardenia trees, and around the gardenia trees was a small patch of azalea bushes. It suddenly occurred to Li Yundong that he and Su Chan had seen Zhao Yujian confess his love to Zhou Qin here, hadn't they? Li Yundong couldn't help but think of the cycle of cause and effect that Su Chan had mentioned. He suddenly felt as if everything in this world was caused by cause and effect, and everything was a cycle. For a moment, Li Yundong was lost in thought. Seeing that Li Yundong was standing still under the pavilion, Zhou Qin thought that he was refusing to come in. She had never encountered such a situation before. She had begged a boy and been rejected time and again. Is he still holding a grudge against me for turning him down? Zhou Qin smiled helplessly. What a narrow-minded boy. Xueqi pursed her lips and boldly reached out to take Li Yundong's hand. "How long are you going to stand outside?" she asked softly. Xueqi's voice was crisp and pleasant to listen to. At this time, when she spoke in a soft voice, it was like a wife calling out to her husband. It really had a kind of magic that made a man's heart beat faster. Li Yundong was stunned for a moment, then followed Xueqi into the pavilion. After pulling Li Yundong into the pavilion, Xueqi let go of his hand and took a deep breath with her back to Li Yundong. Li Yundong found that the roots of the girl's exposed ears, which were as long as a waterfall, were so red that they looked like they were about to drip blood. Xueqi calmed her racing heart and smiled. "You know what? This is the first time I've taken the initiative to hold a boy's hand." Li Yundong laughed. "Your first time? You don't want me to take responsibility, do you?" Xueqi looked at Li Yundong with a pair of dark and intelligent eyes. She laughed and said, "What do you want to take responsibility for? If I ask you to take responsibility, will you?" Li Yundong smiled embarrassedly and didn't say anything, but in his heart, he blamed himself. "Why can't I change my bad habit of flirting when I see a beautiful woman?" Xueqi saw that Li Yundong was embarrassed and didn't answer her question, so she also smiled and didn't ask any more aggressive questions. She reached out and broke off a gardenia branch that had been poking into the pavilion. As she played with it in her hand, she said, "My father is an official, and so is my grandfather. Both of them are high-ranking officials. I am also the descendant of the so-called Red Disciples. I can be regarded as a princess party." Li Yundong smiled and said, "Then should I call you princess?" Xueqi glanced at Li Yundong and said with a smile, "You are a glib person. I used to hate you no matter how I looked at you. But now, why do I feel that I like every word you say so much?" After saying this, Xueqi's heart beat wildly, and her cheeks turned red. She looked at Li Yundong with sparkling eyes, and there was a sense of boldness and wildness in her shyness. Li Yundong felt more and more embarrassed, but he didn't know how to continue this sentence. For a moment, both of them were silent. In the long pavilion, there were sparse voices coming from the distance. The winding path led to a quiet place, but there was only a burst of fragrance of flowers floating in the air. Li Yundong coughed dryly and changed the topic. "With your background, you should be able to go to a better university, right? Aren't all the universities in the country open to you?" When Xueqi saw that Li Yundong didn't answer her again, there was a faint trace of sadness in her expression. She said again, "It is because I was born in such a family that everything about me has been set up since I was a child. My father wants me to go to the Department of Economics and Trade of Renmin University of China. In the future, after I go to university, he can arrange for me to enter the system to take over his position. You have to know that now the country attaches great importance to women's participation in politics, so if I follow my father's arrangements, my future will be very bright. However, I don't like the feeling of everything being arranged. So I used my father's power to find the Education Commission and change the college application that my father had filled in for me." Xueqi showed a very rare playful look to Li Yundong. "At that time, I didn't want to fill in this school, but I was afraid of being found out. In a moment of desperation, I only thought of the local university, so I went to this university, and met you." Xueqi looked at Li Yundong boldly and said, "Is this also the arrangement of God?" Li Yundong was a little fascinated. He glanced at Xueqi and found that this seemingly quiet and dignified lady was actually full of youthful restlessness and rebellion. Li Yundong felt that if he hadn't met Xueqi, perhaps if Xueqi had confessed to him like this, he would have been flattered and gladly agreed. But when he thought of this, he couldn't help but think that if he hadn't met Xueqi, he wouldn't have become so outstanding, let alone won Xueqi's favor. It seemed that a peck and a drink were predetermined. The cause and effect of this world were truly marvelous. Li Yundong smiled and said, "Actually." But before he could finish his words, Xueqi anxiously pressed a finger to his mouth and said anxiously, "Don't say it." Xueqi was afraid that Li Yundong would refuse her like he had at the banquet last time. If that happened, she would never have the courage to face this boy again. Li Yundong was suddenly stunned. His lips felt the girl's slightly cold and smooth fingertips, and for a moment, there was a trace of ripple in his heart. Xueqi fixed her eyes on Li Yundong and said, "I just want to tell you what kind of girl I am today. I just don't want you to misunderstand me. I don't mean anything else. Don't think too much about it." Xueqi's sensitive and naive self-protection made Li Yundong want to laugh in his heart. He smiled faintly and said, "Go ahead. I'm listening." Xueqi breathed a sigh of relief and continued, "After I came to this school, I often met many boys who confessed to me. Can you imagine? I met 78 boys in 1 month. Oh my God, I'm going crazy." The expression on Li Yundong's face was a little strange. "How many am I?" Xueqi looked at Li Yundong apologetically and nervously. "Sorry, I forgot. Probably more than 200. Li Yundong laughed and said freely, "It's okay. I was just asking. It would be strange if a beautiful girl like you didn't have a boy confess to her." Xueqi looked at Li Yundong very seriously, and found that there was indeed no look of concern in the boy's eyes. Her nervous heart suddenly became a little tangled and depressed. "He really doesn't care about me at all. Let it go just like that." Xueqi sighed, as if she was feeling the entanglement in her heart, and also as if she was thinking about what she had encountered in the past. Many people think that the descendants of red people like us must be very arrogant and domineering, but in fact, the descendants of the higher the official rank, the more low-key they are. Of course, there are also a small number of people who are very arrogant, but such people often end up very miserable. Therefore, it is impossible for me to use the background and power of my family to settle these things. I had to find a girl and make a deal with her. She helped me block the boys who pursued me, and I gave her the corresponding reward in exchange. Li Yundong sensitively realized who Xueqi was talking about. "You mean Ding Nan?" Xueqi nodded. "Yes, this girl was born in a poor family, and she is very eager to live in the upper class and city life. I can bring her famous brand clothes and precious accessories, and she doesn't have to sell her own body. She only needs to help me drive away those boys I don't want to meet. So, I don't think I did anything wrong in this matter. It's just that the two of us took what we needed." Li Yundong nodded. "I understand, but why are you explaining this to me?" Xueqi looked at Li Yundong and said very seriously, "I don't want you to think of me as a beautiful snake." Li Yundong was silent for a moment. Then he smiled slightly. "Actually, you don't have to be so nervous. I have my own eyes, ears and brain. I can think and judge for myself." Xueqi shook her head. "No, the most terrible thing in this world is not the bloody reality you see with your own eyes, but the vicious rumors that come out of nowhere. Once you have a preconceived notion, nothing I can say will change your mind." Li Yundong smiled and said, "What you said makes sense. Now I have an intuitive understanding of your impression. Can I go to dinner? I'm starving." Xueqi looked at Li Yundong seriously for a while, then suddenly smiled. "There are no classes in the afternoon. Where are you going to eat? Can I treat you to a meal in return for saving my life?" Li Yundong hesitated for a moment, then said with a smile, "Okay, but I want to take Xueqi with me. If she doesn't go, I won't go either." Xueqi sighed in her heart, and a trace of sadness flashed in her eyes. She smiled and said, "Of course, no problem. If it weren't for her, both of your arms would be in bandages now. Then I would feel even more guilty in my heart." Li Yundong chuckled. "Then let's go. Where are we going to eat?" Xueqi smiled and said, "The host will do as the guest pleases." Li Yundong waved his hand. "Well, since you say so, then I won't stand on ceremony. Today, I want to eat from a rich family." In the past, Xueqi might have frowned in disgust at Li Yundong's undisguised vulgarity. But at this time, her heart was full of curiosity and admiration for this boy, and she also felt that this was his undisguised and unpretentious true nature. To quickly find this site, please search on Baidu's Sanlian Literature website. Chapter 87. Go to Watch Network. When Li Yundong returned to the classroom, he found that it was empty. Only Xueqi was sitting alone in the back row of the classroom with her back to him. Watch net. Net. Super_speed. New. Li Yundong walked over quietly and heard Xueqi holding 2 paper dolls in her hands. "You have to be obedient," she said to herself. "If you don't listen to me, I won't want you anymore." Then, Xueqi fiddled with another paper doll and said in a gruff voice, "Girl, you have to be obedient to get good food. Do you hear me?" After that, Xueqi said in a soft voice, "You are very obedient. You have been very good recently. Come on, give me a kiss. Li Yundong couldn't help but laugh. Okay, come over and give me a kiss. When Xueqi heard his voice, she was pleasantly surprised. She turned around and beamed at him. You're back. I'm starving, she said, pouncing on him with a sweet smile on her face. I'm starving. Li Yundong pinched the little girl's nose affectionately. Are you starving? Come on, give me a kiss. I'll take you to eat something delicious. Xueqi was about to take a kiss when she saw a girl standing at the door. She said shyly, no, someone is watching. Li Yundong turned back and smiled at Xueqi, motioning for her to wait. Looking at the intimate appearance of the two of them, Xueqi felt a burst of jealousy in her heart. She suddenly remembered that she had lived so long, but she had never known what it was like to fall in love. Just now, she had boldly pulled Li Yundong's hand and felt her whole body heat up, as if her fingertips had been electrocuted. Xueqi gently pulled Li Yundong's hand and looked at Xueqi enviously. She sighed in her heart. I really don't know what it's like to be in love like this. When will this boy be so gentle and doting to me? Li Yundong said to Xueqi with a smile. What are you talking to yourself about here? Xueqi smiled and took out the 2 paper dolls she had folded. She pointed to a paper doll with a smiling face and said, This is me. Then she pointed to a paper doll with 8 upside-down eyebrows and a fierce face and said, This is you. Li Yundong laughed and said, Wow, you made me look so ugly. You're not allowed to eat today. Xueqi said coquettishly, No, I don't know how to draw. You're always fierce to little girls. So annoying. Xueqi stole a glance at Xueqi. How about I let you kiss me when we get home? Li Yundong's heart warmed up. He really loved this cute little girl. He deliberately put on a straight face and teased her. Nonsense, he said. I just kissed you openly. Why do you have to be so sneaky? Xueqi said coquettishly. Okay, you're doing it openly. Hee, you're really shameless. Li Yundong chuckled and said casually, These 2 paper dolls are well folded, but where did you get the paper? As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly realized that the paper doll was filled with words. Li Yundong was flabbergasted. Suddenly, he felt like he was going crazy. No way. You folded my textbook? Xueqi stuck out her tongue. I tore the first 2 and the one you carried. It should be okay, right? Li Yundong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He deliberately glared at Xueqi and said, When we get home, I'll punish you by kissing you 100 times. Xueqi was startled. She pouted and said, My mouth will be swollen. Li Yundong snapped his fingers at her forehead. You deserve it. Who told you to tear my textbook? Let's go. Don't make others wait. Xueqi will treat us to dinner today. Xueqi covered her forehead and made a face at Li Yundong. Then, she immediately rolled her eyes and threw herself at Li Yundong when he turned around. I want to carry you, she said coquettishly. Li Yundong looked back helplessly. Okay, stop it. Someone's here. Xueqi giggled. I'll stop if you don't let me go back and kiss you 100 times. Li Yundong pretended to be angry. No, 100 times no less. But if you want to carry me, I'll go back and do it. Xueqi blew into Li Yundong's ear and chuckled. Close the door and secretly carry me? Li Yundong's heart was stirred. He couldn't wait to go back and make out with Xueqi immediately. He smiled ambiguously. Okay, close the door and secretly carry me. Xueqi giggled. Piggy carrying wife. Li Yundong pretended to be angry. You're scolding me. The 2 of them chatted and laughed until they reached the door of the classroom. Xueqi didn't feel impatient at all. She looked at the playful pair with a smile on her face. Her eyes were indescribably envious. Go to see the net. 7K. Oath M. Net. Super_speed. More. New. Sorry for making you laugh. Li Yundong chuckled at Xueqi. He rubbed the hair of the girl next to him. This girl is too naughty. Xueqi smiled. It's okay. I really envy you. Xueqi looked at Xueqi seriously and said, I know you. You're that mysterious Inge. Before she could finish her words, Li Yundong covered her mouth. She almost couldn't finish the sentence, Shenin Virgin Maiden Cauldron. Li Yundong glared at Xueqi, idiot. Don't talk nonsense. Suchan pursed her lips and answered obediently. Oh, I see. Go to see. Xueqi blinked her eyes. Although she didn't know what Suchan's words meant, she still greeted Suchan in a friendly manner. Hello. Suchan also greeted Xueqi with a smile. Xueqi asked Li Yundong, where are we going to eat? Li Yundong thought for a moment and said, let's eat near the school. Xueqi smiled. How can we do that? If you want to treat us, you should find a better place. Don't you want to eat from a rich family? What kind of rich family can we eat from a roadside stall? Li Yundong smiled and said, ordinary people like me are very happy to eat from a roadside stall. Well, I'll follow you wherever you want to go. Hey, let's be clear. Don't go to those places that are too expensive for you to buy. Don't put us there as collateral. Xueqi pursed her lips and smiled. Don't worry. There's no place in Tiannan City that I can't buy. Li Yundong said to Suchan. Look, this is what it means to be rich. Suchan stuck out her tongue and whispered to Li Yundong. Go after her, hit on her. If you get her, not only will you have a ready-made virgin to cultivate with, but you'll also have money. Li Yundong raised his hand and slapped the girl's perky buttocks. That's what you get for talking nonsense. Suchan screamed and covered her buttocks with both hands. Her face was red, and she said indignantly, I'm not wrong. They walked out of the school, talking and laughing. When they reached the teaching building, Li Yundong suddenly bumped into someone. This person was none other than Xueqi, who had solved the problem with Li Yundong. Xueqi was holding a cigarette in his mouth and looking at the beautiful girls on the campus. Suddenly, he saw Li Yundong coming out of the teaching building. He was so scared that his body trembled, and he turned around and ran. As soon as Li Yundong saw him, he suddenly became angry. He shouted, stop. But just as Li Yundong was about to chase after him, there was suddenly a cry of surprise from the door of the teaching building. Li Yundong? Li Yundong turned his head when he heard the voice, only to see a pair of sisters wearing the same clothes and looking at him with surprise on their faces. Li Yundong was stunned. Who are you? Do you know me? One of the girls, who had a red bow on her hair, laughed and rubbed her nose with one hand. Have you forgotten me so quickly? Li Yundong looked at the girl in confusion. You are? The girl with the red bow smiled and said, we met in front of McDonald's. Li Yundong suddenly understood. Ah, you're Uncle MacDonald. The girl giggled. I finally recognize you. Li Yundong turned his head to Suchan and deliberately said with a straight face, you even punched her last time. Look at you. You actually hit the nose of such a beautiful girl. You really are ruthless. Suchan hid behind Li Yundong's back. You're so annoying. I didn't do it on purpose. Who told her to scare me? Suchan poked her head out from behind Li Yundong. I'm sorry. Li Yundong smiled at the girl with the red bow. Are you a student at Tiannan University? I haven't seen you before. Do you work at McDonald's? The girl laughed. You're a famous person. It's normal that you don't know small fries like us. Next time you come to McDonald's, I'll give you a discount. Li Yundong smiled at the girl with the blue bow on her hair. Is this your older sister or younger sister? The girl with the red bow smiled mischievously. Why don't you take a guess? Li Yundong looked at the girl carefully and found that the girl with the blue bow was much quieter than the girl with the red bow. She looked at him with a smile. Although there was a shyness in her eyes, her temperament was much calmer than the girl with the red bow. Li Yundong smiled and said, this is your sister. The girl with the red bow said in surprise, that's amazing. How did you guess it? Sometimes, even my parents would guess wrongly. Li Yundong pointed at the girl with the blue bow on her head. When you asked me to guess, your sister glanced at you. There was a look of tolerance and love in her eyes. This means that she must be taking care of you and tolerating you in your daily life. Am I right? The girl with the red bow looked at Li Yundong in surprise. She gave him a thumbs up. Good job. You're my idol. After that, the girl with the red bow took a notebook from her sister and handed it to Li Yundong. She smiled and said, here, sign your name, big star. Li Yundong laughed and said, I don't even know your name. How can I sign it? The girl with the red bow smiled and said, my name is Deng Yu, and my sister is Deng Jiao. Li Yundong smiled and signed Deng Yu and Deng Jiao's names. He handed the notebook back and asked, "Are you in the same class? Which department are you in?" Deng Yu smiled and said, "We are only freshmen. I'm in the Department of Foreign Languages, and my sister is in the Department of Chinese Languages. She's in the same department as you." Li Yundong said, "Okay, I'll find you at McDonald's in the future." Deng Yu smiled and said, "Not necessarily. We'll meet at McDonald's in the future. Hee hee." The two sisters smiled and left. Li Yundong had never seen such beautiful sisters before, and he couldn't help but stare at them a few more times.
When he withdrew his gaze, he saw that Xueqi was staring at their backs with a look of admiration.
Xueqi said, "Good cauldron." Li Yundong pinched her nose and said, "Okay, stop. Don't say anything else." Xueqi let out a cry and slapped Li Yundong's hand away. Xueqi watched them play with a smile and said, "Can we go now? Premier Li? Premier Li?" Li Yundong looked at Xueqi in confusion. Xueqi pursed her lips and smiled.
"You are busier than the premier, Mr. Li."
Li Yundong laughed. He suddenly thought of Xueqi, who he had met on the opposite side, and couldn't help but snort. "He's lucky. Next time we meet, I'll teach him a lesson." Xueqi looked at Li Yundong and secretly remembered his words. She comforted him and said, "It's better to squash enmity than keep it alive." Li Yundong was not a good-tempered person. He didn't say it out loud, but he didn't take it seriously in his heart. He smiled at Xueqi and said, "Forget it, let's not talk about this birdman. Let's go eat. My stomach is about to flatten from hunger." Xueqi also cried, Yes, I'm starving too. I'm going to eat a lot later." Li Yundong bluntly said, "It doesn't matter how much you eat, as long as you don't pile food on a plate like last time." After that, Xueqi, who was standing to one side, burst out laughing. The group of people gradually walked away. When they were about to reach the school gate, Li Yundong's heart skipped a beat. He turned his head and looked at a corner of the teaching building. Xueqi and Li Yundong had been together for a period of time, so she had some understanding of him. She asked, "What's wrong?" Li Yundong frowned. "I don't know. I feel like someone is looking at me." Xueqi smiled and said, "You are now a famous person in the school. Isn't it normal for someone to look at you?" Li Yundong smiled and didn't say anything. He just searched the place with his eyes like lightning. After a while he said, "Forget it, let's go." When Li Yundong and the others left the school gate, a figure walked out of a corner of the teaching building and watched them leave with a pair of resentful eyes. Happy reading. Chapter 88. Go to watch net. Young master he didn't expect that he would be discovered when he hid in the corner and looked at Li Yundong. When Li Yundong turned his head and glared at him, young master he instantly felt like he was being stared at by a wild beast. He was so scared that he immediately hid. Go to watch net. Even young master he didn't know why he wanted to hide. He just subconsciously felt afraid of this sharp and threatening gaze, as if he had done something wrong. After Li Yundong left, young master he dared to walk out and spat fiercely on the ground. He gritted his teeth and cursed, F***ck, this F***ker is really lucky, and he's really lucky with women. F***ck. Young master he. A voice came from not far away. Young master he turned his head and saw Xueqi greeting him. Young master he glared at him and waved at him. When Xueqi approached, he slapped Xueqi in the face. F***ck. Why did you call me? Don't you know that the situation is tense now? How dare you call me here? Young master he slap made Xueqi's face burn. He covered his cheek and didn't dare to flare up. He just smiled embarrassedly. Young master he, I want to ask you for some money. The situation is a little tense now. Can I? Young master he slapped him again. F***ck. You also know that the situation is tense. You still called me here when the situation is tense. You still have the nerve to ask me for money? I want you to kill him directly. Look at what you did. I didn't give you a gun for a child to play with. F***ck. Look at what you've done. Why didn't you just find a professional to kill him? Why did you find a stupid thing like Zhao Yujian?
Xueqi covered both sides of his cheeks and said with a sad face. How would I know that stupid Zhao Yujin couldn't deal with Li Yundong even with a gun?
Young master my brother. Can I call you master? It's really tight now. You also know that a case with a gun involved is very troublesome. The people from the police are biting like dogs.
Young master he glared at Xueqi fiercely and said angrily, F***ck. If you hadn't scolded Li Yundong in front of me last time and said that you had a life and death grudge with him, I wouldn't have looked for a piece of trash like you.
You're really F***king useless. Go to hell, I won't raise a useless piece of trash like you. Xueqi couldn't care less about his pride. He knelt down in front of young master he, hugged his leg and begged. Young master he, my dear master, you can't just watch me die. If I'm implicated. Young master he's eyes immediately revealed an extremely terrifying fierce light. He said ferociously, What? You still want to get me involved? Do you know who my father is? I can crush trash like you with my little finger. Even if you're locked up in the police station, I can still kill you before you even open your mouth. Xueqi slapped himself hard. My mouth is cheap. I'm spouting nonsense.
That's not what I meant, young master he. What I mean is, if I disappear far away, won't it save you a lot of trouble? You're the son of a rich family, so you don't have to sit in the hall. You don't have to take the risk because of me, do you? Young master he kicked Xueqi. F***ck your mother, you're the son of a rich family, so you don't have to sit in the hall.
Idiot, where did all the books you've read go? You're completely illiterate. You can't read well, and you don't even know how to fight. F***ck, you're still a university student. What do you know? Why don't you go and die?
Xueqi slapped himself again and smiled charmingly.
Yes, I've all studied for nothing.
Young master he, you're still the most knowledgeable. Don't worry, as long as you give me some money, I promise to disappear far away and never let you see me again.
Go to the internet.
Seeing that he was still talking about money, young master he was instantly enraged. He looked at Xueqi with a fierce glint in his eyes and didn't say a word. Xueqi's hair stood on end from young master he's gaze. He said in a trembling voice, Young master he, you're not trying to silence me, are you?
I have brothers who know that I've done something for you. There are also people here who saw me come into contact with you. You can't act recklessly. Young master he couldn't do anything to a shameless person like Xueqi. He was so angry that he laughed out loud. He gritted his teeth and kicked Xueqi again. F***ck, I was wondering why you called me to school. It turns out that you found so many witnesses for yourself. F***ck. Well, you have guts. 100,000. Get as far away from me as you can. Remember, don't let me see you, otherwise. Tiannan City is so big. It won't be noticeable at all if there's one less hooligan in the city. Xueqi immediately got up. He hated that he didn't have a tail behind him. He smiled charmingly and said, Don't worry, I promise to get far away. Young master he felt disgusted when he saw Xueqi's expression. He glared at Xueqi and said, Get lost. After that, he took out a check from his pocket, signed it, and handed it over. F***ck, I didn't do anything well, and I still have to spend so much money. Be careful. Don't burn your hands with this money. If you can't bear it, you'll die halfway. Xueqi smiled fawningly and said, No. Young master he shook his head and waved his hand impatiently. Get lost. I'm annoyed when I see you. As he spoke, he suddenly saw a girl pointing at them on the road not far away. Young master he suddenly shouted at them. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a handsome guy before? The girls screamed in fear, and young master he immediately laughed proudly. Under Xueqi's guidance, Li Yundong and Xueqi arrived at a high-end Western restaurant located in the center of a commercial office building in the North Gate district of Tiannan City. This Western restaurant was called Bielo French Restaurant. It was the most high-end Western restaurant in Tiannan City. The entrance was decorated in a rich French Parisian style. As soon as they entered, a neatly dressed waiter came up to them. He was actually a foreigner. With a little pride and reservation unique to French people, he led Li Yundong and the others to the dining area. To see. What would you like to eat? Xueqi skillfully tied a napkin around her collar, then handed the menu to Li Yundong and asked with a smile. Li Yundong looked around at the rich French-style restaurant decoration and delicacies. He smiled bitterly and said, "I've never eaten this kind of authentic Western food. I don't know either. You can order it yourself. I don't want to make a fool of myself." Xueqi smiled slightly and said, "French cuisine is one of the 3 most famous cuisines in the world, along with Chinese cuisine. The French food in this restaurant is very authentic. I came here last time and it was very good." After that, she didn't even open the menu.
She just handed the menu to the waiter who was waiting respectfully at the side and said fluently and skillfully in French, "Serve a set of dishes according to the normal order of serving."
The waiter looked at Xueqi in surprise and also replied in French, "Do you want the full set?" Xueqi nodded and said, "Yes, open a bottle of Kaoli royal wine for me. Also, is your foie gras the freshest here? I want the freshest, and your caviar here. Last time I came here, you only had the roe of the Ostra sturgeon. Today, I want the roe of the Beruga sturgeon." The waiter's eyes widened. You want the roe of the Beruga sturgeon? God, are you talking about the Caspian sea pearls?" Xueqi smiled at him elegantly and said, "My French should be standard, right? It shouldn't be wrong." The waiter knew that he had met a rich guest who was proficient in French cuisine. Today, this caviar dish alone would cost more than 6 figures. He became more and more respectful and said, "Your French is as standard and fluent as a native French. Your beauty is as beautiful as the elegant French. It's my honor to serve you." Xueqi was obviously used to this kind of flattery and praise.
She handed the waiter a tip of 100 yuan with a kind of modesty and arrogance unique to powerful people.
"Thank you for your compliment. My friends are already very hungry." The waiter took the tip and bowed skillfully and elegantly. Before leaving, he couldn't help but look back at Xueqi and think to himself, "I have been in China for several years, but I have never seen such an elegant and noble lady. Is she a descendant of a noble family in China? It must be." While he was thinking, he suddenly noticed that Xueqi was talking to Li Yundong. With his keen eyes, he found that Xueqi's eyes were full of love and obsession for the boy in front of her. All of them showed that this girl was pursuing this boy. God, such a beautiful and noble lady is actually pursuing a man? Who is this man? The waiter couldn't help but look at Li Yundong again, as if he wanted to see his identity and status from his dress and manner of speech. But while he was thinking, he suddenly bumped into a person and almost fell. After the waiter quickly apologized, he left in a daze under the other party's unfriendly gaze. Li Yundong looked at Xueqi and said with a smile, "You can speak French? Good, I have a whole new level of respect for you." Xueqi smiled slightly. "My father used to want me to go abroad and go to Paris, so he forced me to learn French." Li Yundong sighed. "Alas, even my English is terrible, but you can speak French so fluently. I really admire you." Xueqi looked at Li Yundong sincerely and said, "There are at least millions of people in this world who can speak several foreign languages. But I'm afraid that you are the only hero in the world who can risk your life to save a person and catch a person who fell from the 5th floor with your bare hands." No matter how thick-skinned Li Yundong was, he still blushed a little from the praise. He smiled and said, "It's useless to praise me again. I won't save money for you today." Xueqi knew that Li Yundong hadn't ordered anything at all, so this sentence was a joke. She laughed at Li Yundong's humor and reaction. Xueqi looked around curiously. She pulled Li Yundong's arm and said in confusion, "Yundong, I have something to ask you." Li Yundong looked at Xueqi warily. "What is it? If it's a naughty question, don't ask." Xueqi said coquettishly, "You're so annoying. Who's naughty? I'm very obedient now." Li Yundong smiled and said, "Then ask." While they were talking, the waiter pushed the dining cart over. The traditional French menu had 13 dishes, and the first dish was an appetizer. The waiter first served a plate of foie gras, then poured Li Yundong, Xueqi, and Xueqi royal red wine. Sitting across from them, Xueqi picked up the wine glass in front of her with a smile, tasting the smooth and refreshing red wine while watching Li Yundong and Xueqi talk in front of her. Xueqi pointed at the knife and fork on the table and said in confusion, "Are we going to dissect here? Why are the knives and forks here?" Xueqi suddenly spat out a mouthful of red wine. Fortunately, Li Yundong reacted quickly and quickly stood up the napkin in front of him, so he was spared. The waiter who was pouring wine trembled and knocked over the wine glass, spilling the wine on Zhou Qin's skirt. After Li Yundong put down the napkin with lingering fear, he found that Zhou Qin stood up in a hurry and hurriedly wiped her skirt. There was a strange look around. Li Yundong turned his head and looked at Xueqi with extreme helplessness. The girl seemed to know that she seemed to have said something wrong again. She shrank into the corner of the seat with an aggrieved expression and looked at Li Yundong timidly, her face full of fear. The waiter who had knocked over the wine glanced at Xueqi and was suddenly stunned. He shouted in his heart, "God, there is such a delicate and pitiful girl. The resentment in her eyes can make any man die for her." While he was in a daze, the mouth of the bottle in his hand tilted unconsciously, and a lot of wine poured out. The wine on Zhou Qin's skirt had not been wiped clean, and a lot of wine was splashed. She said angrily, "Hey, do you want to drown this place?" The waiter suddenly came to his senses and hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry. Zhou Qin frowned and waved at him. "Go away." The waiter apologized repeatedly and cleaned up the table. Then, he left with a face full of shame. Li Yundong sighed at Xueqi and said, "Please, if you say something wrong, you will die." Xueqi said weakly, "Actually, how can you eat with a knife and a fork? I'm not a barbarian." Although her voice was low, the people around her heard it clearly. For a moment, all kinds of eyes looked at her, and Li Yundong suddenly felt a headache coming on. However, Zhou Qin looked at Xueqi and suddenly smiled. She said, "You're right. We are the descendants of Chinese civilization. We are civilized people. We shouldn't eat with such barbaric things." As she said this, she snapped her fingers and called the waiter over. It was a waiter with a strange face. The waiter who had been in trouble before obviously didn't dare to come over. Zhou Qin smiled and said to the waiter, "Please give us 3 pairs of chopsticks." After saying this, the expression on the waiter's face was really wonderful. He looked at Zhou Qin in shock, as if he couldn't believe his ears. Li Yundong found that Zhou Qin suddenly had a spirit of mischief. He couldn't help laughing and said, "Hey, it's not appropriate, is it? This is a Western restaurant." Zhou Qin blinked at Li Yundong and said very playfully, "It doesn't matter. It has to be suitable for the national conditions of China." Li Yundong laughed and secretly gave Zhou Qin a thumbs up. Then, he smiled at the waiter who had been dumbfounded for a long time and said, "Didn't you hear that? Waiter, 3 pairs of chopsticks." Happy reading. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.